Test 1 2, test 1 2. We are live for another fun night of politics. Hopefully, it won't be too depressing. I want to start off with something that I've been confused about. Okay, so we have David Pakman posting about like the Trump conspiracy theory that Trump is dead, and I want to cover that too because I'm confused about that as well. But why is the why are all of the people that have been listed in the Wired article as being paid operatives of the Democratic Party now trying to say that it's been fully debunked? That's what I'm accused about. FAB, go to bed. Don't stay up. Don't listen to my ramblings. Seriously, go to bed. Like, this is just my own neuroses that's making me stay up and stream tonight. Okay, so what is this? After a recent Wired hit piece, now fully debunked, false claims started circulating, and sadly some people chose to unsubscribe from my website, membership, Substack, or unfollowed on YouTube. That outcome is exactly what the author was hoping for when they put out a misleading and inaccurate article. If you want to support what I do, please consider subscribing. Okay, so I'm wondering if he put out a don't worry, you have like $8,000 a month to make up for those lost subs. I'm wondering if he actually made a video talking about this at all. Morning, and I think this is interesting too because you have literally word for word the same response from this guy Aaron Parnas. Because of a recent Wired hit piece that has now been debunked, misinformation spread like a wildfire, and several people decided to unsubscribe from my Substack. This is what the author wanted, despite publishing a false article. Please consider subscribing. Like the exact same thing. This is the outcome This outcome is exactly what the author was hoping for when they wanted to put out a misleading and inaccurate article. It doesn't. Oh, here he is talking with Brian Tyler Cohen from 2 months ago. It doesn't look like he's actually addressed anything. I hate to admit this, but I have to. Okay, maybe we're gonna see something here, but it doesn't look like he's addressed any of the allegations. So, what is the reason that these people are saying it's been debunked? We have Emma Vigeland here, and she says, Wired has been one of the most reputable outlets in 2025, breaking major stories about Doge, finding metadata showing the Epstein cell video was edited, etc. They have editors and likely lawyers that they consult before publication. Gonna need a better excuse than fake news. So Taylor Lorenz says, similar statements creators are putting out now about our story. Wired.com. Okay, so this is the initiative. This is the article that we read yesterday about the initiative that paid $8,000 a month to this list of influencers. So Olivia Giuliana, the centrist Gen Z influencer who spoke at the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Lauren Peritra, a former Playboy executive turned political influencer who hosts a podcast for Occupy Democrats. Barrett Adair, a content creator who runs an American Girl doll themed pro DNC meme account. Suzanne Lambert, Regina George Liberal, Ariel Fodor, an education creator, Sander Jennings, David Pakman, Leigh McGowan, a politics girl, and dozens of others. And I guess apparently this guy is one of the dozens of others, Aaron Parnas. It hasn't been proven they're all people who don't talk about Gaza or Israel and are praising Alyssa Slotkin. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you aren't talking about Israel and you're ostensibly a progressive person, you're either paid or otherwise reliant on access to the establishment, and you think that you would jeopardize your access to the establishment if you talked about Israel, or you're just ideologically a Zionist in whatever vein of Zionism you choose to be. Whether you're like, ideologically believe in Zionism and that you actually think that there should be an ethno state, whether you're racist, whether you think that American imperialism needs that kind of satellite military base, which is Israel, in the region to dominate the Arab states there, for whatever kind of reason. You're either ideologically a Zionist or just avoiding it so that you can maintain access, or, and then in this case, literally get paid by non-for-profit subdivision of the Democratic media machine. Let's see if this was posted 13 hours ago. Let's see what he has to say.
I've been going back and forth about whether to even do this story, and I was about not to do the story, but I do find that this is a really important thing. It has to do with the existential threat facing Democrats. And I am seeing the writing on the wall that Democrats still don't get it. So I'm going to tell you this story. It's a personal story. Do with it what you will. And I know that I may be potentially burning some bridges by talking about this. One of the things that we learned during the 2024 election was that the
fucking doctor's office ass waiting room looking set that he has behind him.
Democratic Party doesn't really seem to get new media and independent media. And they continue to do the kind of stale thing of the Sunday shows that very few people watch and buttoned up interviews, trying to be as least controversial as possible, occasionally dropping in a swear word or whatever to try to be a little more provocative and relatable. And it's all pretty disingenuous. But in December of 2024, I was invited to the White House.
It's all disingenuous saying that your independent media, while allegedly getting paid $8,000 a month to do pro-Democratic Party talking points and have access to like insider Democrats.
Of course, Kamala Harris had lost the election by then. And I met with senior Biden communications officials, and the president even came in to meet with us as well. And the topic really was the failures of 2024 by Democrats to understand independent media, to work with independent media podcasts, foment an environment in which it's actually useful and sort of like creates a community where audiences get to know elected officials and blah, blah, blah. And I had high hopes that the corner was being turned. And in fact, in 2025, as you all know, we've had more Democratic elected officials on the show. This includes governors. This includes members of the House. This includes members of the Senate. One of the unfortunate things for Democrats, and I've been totally upfront with everybody about this, is that even when they appear on our shows, most of them really don't connect in a genuine way. They talk about fighting back with strongly worded letters and meeting voters where they are. And there's very little sense that they are up for the fight and understand how to work in this new media environment. There are exceptions. I mean, most recently we had Gavin Newsom on. I think he gets it. And part of it is Gavin Newsom himself. Part of it is his staff.
Remember, Gavin Newsom's idea of getting it was starting a podcast where he interviewed Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk and was like, yeah, I agree with you. Trans people are subhuman that lost Kamala Harris the election. Yeah, that's awesome. Like, now that you have Gavin Newsom, who just discovered the caps lock button on his keyboard, now he's like the Democrats' most popular social media shitposter. It's insane that the bar is that low for a Democrat that actually is getting people excited to be a Democrat. Like, you have Zohar Mamdani and fucking Gavin Newsom. Also, like, let's just real quick, like, David Pakman is saying that, oh, the Democrats are in a lost time. They don't actually understand the media landscape that there is right now. They don't know how to play these games. Like, keep in mind, Kamala Harris went on to the Call Her Daddy podcast. Then they wanted to go onto the Joe Rogan podcast too. Let's take a look at this article. They're saying that she'd have to expose herself to tough questioning to expand her support. That was particularly important with men, specifically young men who were not buying what she was selling. The obvious answer was Joe Rogan. On October 11th, Harris Deputy Campaign Manager Rob Flaherty, the aide in charge of digital strategy, made the first Zoom calls to start negotiating with Rogan's reps. He did not know what to expect. He was surprised, perhaps a tad disappointed, to find out that Rogan's associates were more like Hollywood agents. Harris would have to come to Austin, Texas. Rogan's rep said that might be negotiable, but he had only done one interview with an out-of-studio guest. That was the leaker Edward Snowden. So they offered up that Harris would be happy to talk about social media censorship, weed, and other issues they thought would be of most interest to the listeners. From their perspective, it was a suggestion of possible topics, not an exhaustive or exclusive list. That's not what Rogan wanted to talk about. Joe just wants to talk about the economy, the border, and abortion, one of his reps said, according to a person familiar with the negotiations. After two Zoom sessions, Flaherty called the Rogan intermediaries with an offer. Could Rogan join Harris in Michigan? He asked, proposing a date later in the week. No go, the Rogan team said after reaching the host on a week-long hunting trip. Austin or nothing. That's going to be tough. We're only a few weeks out from the election. Literally, just keep in mind, the interview that Joe Rogan did with Donald Trump got over 50 million views on YouTube. And it's going to be tough to make it into Texas. And, also look at this. Harris had less than zero reason to be in Texas. It was not a swing state. Her campaign was flush with cash, so it made no sense to take her off the trail to raise money. So she's going to pass up on a media opportunity that got 50 million views for her opponent because the place where it's being filmed is not a swing state, and it would be like, I don't know, a 12-hour deviation from her normal schedule. Harris campaign chief Jennifer O'Malley Dillon broke the impasse. She would be in Atlanta. Rogan had called Trump a man baby. There was no telling what Rogan might ask her or how he would treat her. Plus, his anti-woke crusade had made him a pariah on the hard left. They were overruled by O'Malley Dillon's crew, but not because the concerns were considered invalid. Even for those of us who were in favor of it, it was a close call. The Harris High Command was not built to lob Hail Mary passes. Its leaders, starting with O'Malley Dillon, cut their teeth on campaigns that ridiculed fellow Democrats for bedwetting, whether crises were imagined or real. Seeking an interview on a popular podcast hardly qualified as a desperation throw downfield, but it was a relatively risky move for a campaign leadership that had kept its candidate hermetically sealed in the manufacturer's box, like she would retain more value without exposure to air and sunlight. This is... look, you can say that it was like a bad campaigning strategy, but the campaigning strategy of trying to keep Kamala Harris away from any interview that they think could even have the potential of being difficult for her is due to the bad candidate. If she comes across bad talking to fucking Joe Rogan, she's a bad candidate for the president of the United States. It's Joe Rogan. He's a dumbass. He talks to fighters that has brain damage, and he looks stupider than them. He's like the stupidest guy out of the 3 or 4 guys that they have doing commentary, and he's the only one that hasn't been punched in the head for a living. And you think you're gonna look bad talking to him? Well, then you shouldn't be running for the presidency. Holy shit. It pisses me off when people act like Kamala Harris did everything right, and she lost the election due to leftists or due to the Democrats not understanding new media. It's like, they understood it. They were literally talking to Joe Rogan about her doing an interview there. They were getting Kamala Harris to do interviews with the Call Her Daddy podcast. Trying to start doing some kind of liberal media system by paying liberal people to endorse her, paying Oprah to endorse her, shit like that. They understand it. It's just they're actually horrible candidate. Kamala Harris was just a bad candidate. We have to call it what it is. If she was afraid, and if her campaign staff was afraid of her doing an interview on Joe Rogan, I don't know, man. I think that's a pretty low bar to clear, and if you can't clear that bar, then you probably shouldn't be running for the president.
Really gets it and understands how you generate interest and inspire people. Okay. So I had these periods of cautious optimism.
Yeah, and also
not really
get some fucking good politics that you can actually campaign on. That's not just I'm better than Donald Trump, and if I become president, then you can get a $50,000 loan to start a small business in a minority majority area of the city.
doing it right, etc. Let me tell you what's happened over the last couple of weeks. I'm not going to name names here, but I do think it's important to tell you the story. There is an elected off and on over the years. And that
Hold on, I have to rewind this.
An elected official, House or Senate, who we have been in touch with on the show off and on over the years. And that is an individual who has challengers in the forthcoming 2026 election. And this individual's challengers have been reaching out to me. The challengers for this elected official have been saying, David, fan of the show, I would like your endorsement, or at minimum, I would like to be on your show. What about maybe doing a debate, including the elected official that I'm running against? And so I want to kind of learn about what's going on in this race. I don't even know for sure that the elected is running for re-election. I assume that they are, but I don't know. So I reach out to the office of this elected official and I say, hey, just a reminder, David Pakman, you've done the show off and on over the years. We have a relationship. I am trying to get in touch to figure out what is going on for 2026. Are you running for re-election? Are you not? Are you up for doing a debate? Your challengers are asking me to appear. They're asking me for an endorsement, etc. I just want to touch base and figure out what's going on. I want to hear it from you before making any decisions about our coverage so that I ensure that our coverage is calibrated to, is this an open seat or is this an incumbent who's being challenged? Just want to touch base. I hear back from the office.
Okay, you asked some clarifying questions. That didn't need to be a 2-minute long soliloquy.
Office of this individual. And they simply say, for any campaign questions, email info at a different website, which is clearly the campaign side, not the administrative, congressional office of this person. Now, there's of course nothing wrong with saying we really only handle the legislative affairs. For anything related to the forthcoming election, you have to be in touch with the campaign. There's nothing wrong with that. But shuffling me off to an info at email, which goes into a black hole, it's just where all of the crap goes. I know we will never, ever, ever.
Okay, so what is this? A discussion about Democratic elected officials failing to connect with voters and independent media. What are the comments here? You should absolutely name names. Democratic voters deserve to know which politicians are meeting the moment and which ones are not. So this is a video he made complaining that a Democrat he used to have contact with is now kind of like cut contact off with him. And is like, oh, you can contact me through the channels that everyday people that I don't have any relationship with can contact me through. That's the point of this video? Being like, oh, one of my friends is no longer on like personal connection terms with me. What are you admitting?
Here back. And this is the fundamental problem. That sort of way of dealing with independent media is how all of us will end up going, screw this elected official. Let's endorse the challenger. Let's fundraise for the challenger. This is exactly the problem that we are talking about. And so I reached out to my...
Holy shit. Dude, are you fucking for real, David? Are you for real? A guy that you used to like contact with personally is like, hey, you want to get information about my campaign? You can go through the channels that everyone else can go through. And then you throw a hissy fit on your YouTube channel and you're like, this is why independent media endorses challengers, because they actually want to talk to me. This is the fucking Bill Maher quote. This is the Bill Maher line where he's like, I've never been treated so well by the Democrats as I was treated by Donald Trump. He actually cares about me. He makes me feel seen. So you are going to endorse a challenger because the challenger reached out to you and the incumbent was like, contact me through my official channels. And then you make a 7-minute long video complaining about it and crying to your audience. Oh, they don't use independent media properly. There's a difference between campaigning using independent media and like doing educated campaigning that's effective in reaching people where they are, and being a fucking sitting senator and not having a personal relationship with David Pakman. Are you kidding me? These reasons could explain why Bernie Sanders is popular with younger voters. Despite being much older, he's an independent and speaks with straightforwardness without elitism. Democrats need younger generations. They're like, oh, David's like, they're not talking to me personally, so actually their strategy's fucked. I mean, I don't know. I think that's a little silly. Like, sure, Democrats can. I think the point of Democrats talking with quote unquote independent media is so that they can hear the criticisms from the independent media. I don't necessarily think it's to get like leftist media um, to tell their viewers to vote for them, because if you're doing your job as an internet leftist or a progressive commentator, everyone in your audience is going to vote for the most progressive candidate anyway, regardless of whether that candidate comes onto the show or not. Like, it's great if they would come onto the show, if they talk to Hassan, if they talk to David Pakman, like, heavens forbid, if they talk to me at all, and they understand the concerns and the criticisms from the people that are on the left aimed at them, so that they can change their policies to become more leftist. Um, Perfect example is Richie Torres when he was on Adam Friedland's show. He heard the concerns from a leftist position, which is something that it seems like he's never heard before. Like, he's just never came across information or words constructed in that order to portray the thoughts of a leftist and a leftist concern with Israel. Like, he's never been exposed to that before, and so it's good when he goes onto leftist shows. Like, but David's really going to throw a hissy fit because an incumbent Democrat cut off contact with him when they had contact with him before? Seriously? And it's like, while you're trying to exculpate yourself from being like a paid Democratic operative, or having like restrictions on what you talk about and who you criticize and stuff. Okay, let's finish this off.
My contacts on the Hill, and I said, listen, this is what happened. This is exactly what I thought we were trying to fix when we went and met with the Biden administration and met with people from the House and met with people from the Senate in DC. And we're doing the same old thing. We're doing the same damn thing right now. So the point of this is, as I hear feedback from you, and most of you say about most of the elected officials I have on, David, these people are law. They don't get it. They don't understand what's going on. They're not understanding how to effectively communicate in this new environment. They're not getting it. They're going to get crushed. Well, maybe some of them deserve to get crushed, right? I mean, maybe this is going to lead to a turnover generationally or ideologically or whatever, because even after everything that happened in 2024, email info for any questions about the campaign. All right.
Bro, he's actually just made a video being all pissy that when he reached out to someone through a personal channel, they're like, contact us through our official channel. And then he's made a video and he's like, these Democrats don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're in an age that gone past. It's like, dude, are you serious? Democrats know how to play insider ball with media figures, right? Like, you're just pissy that you're like, oh well, they're not working with independent media figures. No, dude, like like, they're still gonna do that shit with independent media figures too. Maybe they just don't like you. Like, yeah, I don't think Brian Tyler Cohen has issues reaching people like Jamie Raskin or the fucking Adam Schiff, or who's the guy from Hawaii that he was interviewing, where he's like, I don't want to think about Trump creating a constitutional crisis. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Like, that fucking moron. Seriously? Okay. So anyway, what's the update with this? Let's look this up. Wired article controversy. David responds to a Wired. What is this? Okay, let's listen to this response from David.
All right, I was not even going to talk about this because I hate participating in the drama.
Because it is in your contract that you can't talk about it.
I hate the circular firing squad that often builds on the left. But it's really important that my audience
You hate the circular firing squad that often builds on the left. Oh my god. Yeah, this is a guy who's like, I get criticized because I'm not pro Gaza enough by these people. And like they say that that I'm not in favor of enough social justice issues. Well, yeah, if you are insistent on dehumanizing some sections of people, that should be called out. That should be a prerequisite for considering yourself to be a leftist and being on the left, being a progressive person.
Know what's going on. So I am going to talk about it. I was named in an article in Wired yesterday, and the article is about a so called dark money group on the left called Chorus. And I'm named in the article along with other creators as being part of the group. And since this article came out, I've heard from a bunch of you. David, did you sell out? David, is the DNC telling you what to say?
Okay, but like honestly though, come on. If I don't know. I'm sure he got emails like that.
Watch this.
But like, come on guys, let's look at his videos. Stand back and stand by. Is JD Vance preparing for Trump's death? Trump pounded by Japan. White House furious about Trump health crisis. What the fuck? DeSantis forgets that Trump was president. Trump explodes in an outrageous overnight meltdown. Deranged Trump going to ban the COVID vaccine. Like, this looks like if you could imagine what a paid Democratic operative channel would look like, it would be this. It's all superficial criticisms of Donald Trump. Um, this is DeSantis forgets that Trump was president. Who cares? How is that relevant? DeSantis is irrelevant. This interview is going to like go in and out of the public consciousness like a fart in a hurricane. It's so dumb. Like sure, talking about Trump's health, that's valid, but 4 or 5 videos about it in a day, it's crazy. Like this is you're not like if you're emailing David Pakman shocked that he's getting paid by the DNC, I don't know if you really watch his videos or are a viewer of his channel.
How could you do this to us? I knew back in 2021 when you had the following to say that you must have been getting paid by someone, and here's the proof. And I was not even going to give this the time of day, but my relationship with you, my actual audience, is the most important thing. And so I decided to do this segment. I also was told that other creators, like a Twitch streamer named Hassan Piker, were covering this in ways that don't reflect the reality of the situation and are perpetuating falsehoods about what is and isn't.
I don't know. I saw some of Hassan's coverage of this. He didn't have that much stuff to say. Like like I'd love for him to give me some examples of what Hassan said, but it's kind of funny that he had to just name drop Hassan there for give a little flag for people. It's like, oh yeah, the fuck Hassan liberal crowd.
Going on. Now, I can't speak to the motives of the people that wrote the article or those that are reacting to it. I can't get in their heads. All I can do is tell you what's going on, and then you can judge and you can make an assessment of me. Now, I also want.
Let me guess. They're too pro Palestine. Is that it? And you're not pro Palestine enough, and so they want to take you down a peg. Is that what the motives are going to be that he's going to hint at?
To mention, I'm aware that many of the people I'm hearing of aren't even part of my audience. They're doing the, well, now I'm unsubscribing, and they mostly were never subscribed. And so I'm aware of that, but it doesn't matter because I want to make sure my audience hears from me about this. Now, the most important thing to say is that the idea behind this group is exactly what I've been advocating for years. It's for years I've been saying the left needs to organize in.
Okay, this is hilarious. He's like, there's an article coming out spreading falsehoods about me, and I'm going to address it. But first thing I need to say, I love the idea Sorry, let me back up. There's an article claiming that there's a group paying me to do stories, and like that's a completely false allegation. Even though I love the idea of a group paying people to do stories, like why would you're saying it's false, but then immediately being like this is an awesome thing.
Behind this group is exactly what I've been advocating for years. It's for years I've been saying the left needs to organize independent media in the way that the right has been doing. The left needs to fund in
Also, like let's just get one thing clear right now. What he's saying is not a good idea. The left, or first of all, there is no left that would organize and fund independent media. He doesn't like, I don't know, like, he's not really criticizing capital too much in this, right? Like, his channel's an anti Trump channel for as long as you go. There's not really much criticism of corporations or oligarchy or anything like that. I'm sure he's covered some of the human rights abuses that Donald Trump has done, and maybe some of the corruption, but I don't think that's a very strong theme in his channel. Capital is what is funding conservative media. That's how they get billionaires to fund conservatives and turn them into millionaires. Um, like, that's why there's so much money on the right. Uh, Conservatives are completely sycophantic to the people that pay them. They are their dogs that will do whatever they're told to do. You had Charlie Kirk being like, you know what, I'm done talking about the Epstein stuff. You had Alex Jones saying, oh, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick. And then a day later, he's like, oh, yeah, I figured it out. Donald Trump's not releasing the Epstein files because he's trying to blackmail the deep state. All of these guys are 100% sycophantic to Republicans, the Republican Party. And even though they may have their infighting every now and then, there is never going to be a point where they try to break with the Republican Party in favor of the truth for their audience. If anything, they might break with the norm of some of the narratives in order to get themselves like a leg up on the competition of other conservative influencers. But it's going to be like crabs pulling themselves down inside of a bucket. They're still going to be inside of the bucket. They're just want to be the top crab. That's what you get when you have Megyn Kelly talking to Ben Shapiro, and Megan's like, well, you say that you trust the government, but like I have insider sources that say otherwise, Ben. So how can you say you trust the government? Like there's going to be those little deviations and like different actors trying to take different lanes, but at the end of the day it's all going to serve the narrative of the Republican voting base and serve Trump as their god king, and whoever is going to replace Trump, they're all going to fall in line behind him. So when David Pakman is looking at conservative media as a success story, sure, like it's a well-oiled machine, but that doesn't mean it's a good thing that the Democrats should try to emulate on their side. And like he says it's independent media, but when you're getting paid by the same people that are putting money into politicians' campaign funds, you're not independent. You're just definitionally dependent on the machine that gets these people into positions of power. So it's weird for him to be like, oh yeah, Charlie Kirk is getting paid by billionaires, and I love that. I want that to happen for the left too. When I think a shining beacon of true independent journalism where you can still have contact with politicians, still have contact with people of power, still have an independent voice that is impactful are guys like Kyle Kalinske or Hassan, who are completely self funded by their audience, and yet they still have leeway. They still have leverage over people in power because of the audience that they have. And that gives them a platform and opportunities to speak with Democratic politicians and to put pressure on them from the left, not just serve to not only serve to try to attract voters for them, but also try to speak for their ideals and push their ideals onto their audience, but also onto the actual politicians that are in power. And I don't see David Pakman doing that. I like he's saying himself, he wants to exist in an ecosystem that conservatives have developed. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I would love to do that."
For years. It's for years I've been saying the left needs to organize independent media in the way that the right has been doing. The left needs to fund independent creators the way that the right does. The right has won even arguably president.
Like the fact that he's saying Charlie Kirk and I don't know, fucking Patrick Bet David is independent when in literally the same sentence he's like, and they're getting funded by the right. They're independent people getting funded by the right.
Presidential elections because they're organized with regard to online and independent media. They're killing us. We've been so behind. And this kind of support for creating.
But like, how have you been behind? By what metric are you behind? Because it seems like the only metric that you're behind the right on is by getting money from the same people that donate to the Democrats. You want that money. You want a little bit of that money. You want to be cut in on that money. Are you behind in reach? You have 3.31 million subscribers on your YouTube channel. Even though you're putting out slop, just like anti-Trump slop on your YouTube channel, they're getting a lot of views, over 100K views, almost 200K views, 54K views, 106K views, 36K views. This is all in the last day. 348,000 views. You have like almost a million views in one day of content, David. Like, how are you far behind? Are you far behind in terms of your access to the politicians? Because sure, politicians will go on like every Tom, Dick, and Harry's podcast on the right, but that doesn't mean that like you're not getting access to politicians on your show. I don't know if we search up like interview or something on his channel. I know that Brian Tyler Cohen goes on to people's, like, he gets a ton of Democratic politicians on his channel. Are you struggling on getting politicians on? I don't know. Maybe we'll see, but like, is that what he's talking about? Like, he threw that hissy fit about a politician that he used to have contact with. That's now like, contact me through the regular channels of contact. Stop calling my personal number and do the official campaign email. Is that what you're complaining about, or is it the money and you just wish that you had more money sent to you from Democratic Party donors?
Haters is exactly what I've been advocating for. Now, the article is riddled with inaccuracies, and they're not minor inaccuracies. First and foremost, this group has nothing to do with the DNC. People writing saying the Democratic Party is telling people what to say. At its base,
like, come on, let's look it up. DNC. Only one mention of DNC here, and it's a pro-DNC meme account. It says that it's, but the contract sent to them from Chorus, the non-profit arm of a liberal influencer marketing platform. The article never said it had anything to do with the DNC. Where the fuck are you getting this from? The only mention of the DNC is that one of the creators they're funding, runs a pro-DNC meme account. That's the only mention of the DNC. When you have a description of Chorus, it's a non-profit arm of a liberal influencer marketing platform. It's literally like a marketing group. Well, like, come on, let's see. Where else do we have this? Where else do they describe Chorus in any other way? According to copies of the contract viewed by Wired that the creator signed, the influencers are not allowed to disclose their relationship with Chorus or the 1630 fund, or functionally that they're being paid at all. Okay, Chorus, what else? Chorus, They've been approached by Chorus about the 1630 fund. They were told they were doing work online and asked if they'd be interested in being part of the first cohort to help expand their reach and impact. According to copies of the contract viewed by Wired, creators in the program must also funnel all bookings with lawmakers and political leaders through Chorus. Okay? Like, where in, like, he's saying that the article is riddled with inaccuracies, and then he proceeds to cite something that does not exist in this article at all. And he's saying that other people are misquoting the article. Well, that's not an issue with the article. That's just an issue with people's recollection of the article, including your own. Because you're not actually responding to accuracies about the article.
DNC. People writing is exactly what I've been advocating for. Now, the article is riddled with inaccuracies, and they're not minor inaccuracies. First and foremost, this group has nothing to do with the DNC. People writing saying the Democratic Party is telling people what to say. At its base, the group has nothing.
Myra, feel free to put FL on a timeout. I think I'm good with him not being in chat right now.
To do with the DNC, period. Number two, I do not get clearance for anything I say. I do not run interview questions by anyone at Chorus. I don't tell Chorus when I'm going to be doing.
So you're being paid by. Okay, so yeah, you're being paid by Chorus. What did this say, by the way? What were the restrictions on here? That you can't say you're being paid by Chorus, that you had to run interview and other contact opportunities with Democratic politicians through Chorus. You can't disclose the relationship with Chorus. They said creators also have to loop Chorus in on any independently organized engagements with government officials or political leaders. So you have to basically have Chorus babysitting you when you engage with politicians. They're not allowed to use any funds or resources they receive as part of the program to make content that it supports or opposes any political candidate or campaign without express authorization from Chorus in advance and in writing for the contract. They will not publicize the relationship without. Okay. They also forbid creators from disclosing the identity of any funder. There are some real great advantages. The goal of Chorus. Okay, so it's just basically like you have to work with Chorus when you're you have to work with Chorus when you're engaging with politicians, like either through interviews or through events, or it was said that when they're engaging, or if they make content that supports or opposes any political candidate or campaign without express authorization from Chorus in advance and in writing. So anyway, he's also doesn't seem to be really addressing the article. Like, look, you can say that there is a lot of misinformation about the nature of the contract with Chorus, basically being like, oh, like, that you want to clear up. However, what he's saying is that the article got a lot of things wrong when he hasn't said one thing that the article's actually gotten wrong about. Sure, he's like clearing things up that people might have misconstrued from the article, but he said that the article's incorrect, and then is like, yeah, Chorus doesn't like hold a gun to my head and tell me that I have to say that Kamala Harris is the best politician that's ever walked the face of the earth. Chorus is not an arm of the DNC. They have nothing to do with the DNC. The article isn't. He's just making up straw men that the article's saying, in order to try to discredit the entire thing, right?
Number two, I do not get clearance for anything I say. I do not run interview questions by anyone at Chorus. I don't tell Chorus when I'm going
So once again, the only thing you actually need to get clearance for is if you're engaging in a politician in like an interview or a campaign event or whatever.
to be doing an interview. Not a single segment
And the other thing is, Wired was reporting on the contracts that they got leaked to them. David Pakman, since he is one of the biggest content creators out of that entire list, could have gotten a different contract that didn't have as much oversight about his engagements with politicians. So, like, maybe he doesn't even have that clause in his contract saying that he has to go through Chorus when it comes to contacting Democratic politicians.
done. Not a single question I've ever asked a guest has anything to do with Chorus. They don't tell me what to talk about. They don't tell me who to interview. They don't tell me how to cover a story. There are no restrictions of any kind on my content. I've never covered a story because Chorus suggested I do it. I've never not covered a story because Chorus suggested I not do it. There is no content relationship.
Yeah, his lack of coverage about Palestine, that's just out of the, what's the opposite of goodness of his heart? Let's just leave it at that. That's just a personal decision, where I actually enjoy looking at the suffering of Palestinians and then not talking about it at all.
Of any kind. So what does Chorus do? They run technical trainings, how to produce content, how to make your operation more efficient. How do you take a small shop of 1, 2, or 3 people and put content out on multiple platforms the way I've been doing successfully for decades? They set up mentorship relationships between larger creators like me and small up-and-coming creators who are looking to do content, which is something I've said for years we need to be doing. They do advocacy trainings. They do media trainings. How do you deal with adversarial media? Reporters.
Yeah, it's a marketing platform. Yeah, we get what marketing platforms are.
With bad intentions who contact you. They do legal training so we understand how is the right-wing machine potentially going to come after us. How do you organize your business to be
Like, look, this is fine, but you can't say you're an independent content creator if you're literally working with a network of other content creators getting paid by it and getting trained by them. And yeah, he listed a bunch of things in which he doesn't have restrictions of, but once again, the article said you have restrictions on who, like, you can't disclose that you're getting paid by Chorus. Notice that he never actually said he's not getting paid by Chorus or he is getting paid by Chorus. He's just conveniently left that out of this confession video, because he probably signed that non-disclosure part of the contract. And he also never actually discussed the other restriction, which is Chorus needs to babysit you in all of your interactions with Democratic Party members. Like, he's not actually addressing anything in the article. He's just like, they never said that I can't look at a Democratic politician with a side eye while I'm chewing gum. They never said that I have to stop covering Donald Trump or that I have to cover Donald Trump. They never said any of these things. And what they do is they I guess I can't say that they pay me because I signed that part of my contract, but they mentor people and they connect them with other content creators and they train them about legal issues and scams that they'd encounter.
protected. That's what they do. And I want to make this really clear, and I know that 99% of my actual audience knows this. If this was a group or an organization that required me to get permission before saying things, or fed me talking points, or told me, David, talk about this and not about that, or anything like that, I would never be part of it, period. Anyone who knows me would know that. Now,
and I mean, this is also disingenuous because, of course, if you're getting paid by someone who has a certain political view, that's automatically going to influence the way you talk about things, right? Like, look, let's not pretend that being on YouTube influences the way that people talk about things. You can't say certain things if you're on YouTube, regardless of your political persuasion, because you are beholden the platform. You're beholden to the rules of the platform, to the advertisers that advertise on that platform and give you money because of it. And it goes double when you have a outspoken, um, like politically involved group paying you money as part of their media, as a part of their media organization that they're creating. Like, even like, sure, they are explicitly putting restrictions on what he can and can't say. He's just not naming the things that they're restricting him on. Um, and I've went over them before. But also, there's the implicit assumption there that, yeah, David Pakman's not going to criticize the Democrats as much when he's getting paid by a group that exists to promote the Democrats. You watch guys like Stephen Colbert, you watch guys like David Pakman, you watch guys like Brian Tyler Cohen, and while they do have their purpose, and sometimes I watch them and I enjoy the content and I think that it's valuable what they're doing. Some of the time, I think it's valuable what they're doing. You also get the like you watch it and you get the feeling that there's nothing the Democrats are going to do that they're ever going to criticize. And even though they're criticizing Trump, and that tickles the part of your brain that's like, I hate Trump, I want to see him criticized, even if it's for stupid shit like, oh, he might be wearing a diaper, oh, he's putting makeup on his hand, oh, he like did the 9,000th faux pas of the week, and we're all gonna like laugh at him and deride him for that. Meaningless shit like that. Even if that's entertaining for you, it's empty. At the end of the day, it's empty because these people are just talking heads serving the Democratic Party, and they're never going to badmouth the Democrats. They're never going to badmouth the candidate that the Democratic establishment coalesces around and says, this is who we're supporting now, because they're going to fall in line. And this goes exactly along with what I was saying earlier, where you look at Republicans and Republican talking heads, and they might deviate with each other slightly in the lanes they take to support Donald Trump, but there's never going to be a point where they stop supporting Donald Trump. They're always going to coalesce behind Donald Trump, and that's the end position that they're going to arrive at. They might take different paths to get there, but it's empty. You know what they're going to say. They don't actually have any kind of convictions, and that's the type of media landscape that David Pakman wants to emulate. He wants to recreate that on the left. I just think it's soulless, and like, even though it has its purpose, it's gross. I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way because you're not actually being a real person. You're just being a wing of propaganda for a party. Um, yeah, you can say that you're like, I'm doing propaganda, Hassan's doing propaganda, Kyle Kalinski's doing propaganda. But if you're doing propaganda for a party and not for like an ideological belief, that's where you lose me. Because sometimes the party's wrong, and you have to call that shit out. So anyway, what was the correction that they issued here? Wired article. I mean, if you only do propaganda for a party, then you get into positions where we are now, where there's a party that's complicit in genocide, and the people that have only done propaganda for that party continue to turn a blind eye to the genocide and are thus implicitly supporting the genocide. And then there's the people that have been critical of the party all along the way that are the only ones that actually speak up against the genocide. Um, and this is the worst, furthest most furthest most extreme example that you could really come up with. But it's unfortunate that that's actually what's happening right now. Like, this is what people would list as a extreme hypothetical like 4 years ago, but now it's actually happening. So anyway, what the fuck is this? What did Taylor Lorenz have to say here? She literally wrote the story too. Wired is officially starting to retract and change parts of Taylor Lorenz's article. How embarrassing for her. Um, yeah, you can update parts of an article and it's not embarrassing for the writer. So what is this? I'll assume that this is correct. Update 828. Following the publication of this article, Graham Wilson of the Elias Law Group, whose participation in a Zoom call was reported upon and who did not respond to Wired's pre-publication email requesting comment, reached out to Wired on several points. So they were writing an article about this guy, Graham Wilson of the Elias Law Group. Don't know who he is, really. I guess he worked with Chorus. They reached out to him. He did not respond to the request for comment. And then after the article was published, he then reached out to Wired and was like, hey, I have some corrections for you, or whatever. I have some comments to make. These include whether members of the cohort can publicly talk about working with Chorus and Chorus's connection to good influence, both of which Wired has clarified. We have also included comment from Wilson regarding Chorus placing restrictions on content and whether V. Speher was included in any Chorus materials. So she says, there are zero retractions/corrections on our story. This tactic of refusing to comment until right after a story goes live, then claiming the comment inclusion is some form of correction, is a strategy the right-in firms like Claire Locke pioneered. The facts of the story remained. So what did they say? After ignoring my repeated request for comment prior to publication, Chorus finally responded today. We have incorporated their comment into the piece, but have not issued any corrections on our reporting. The facts of the story remain unchanged. Where was the update that they incorporated? Update. We have also included comment from Wilson regarding Chorus placing restrictions on content. Okay, what was the? Let's just look this up. Wilson. Okay, so here we go. Following the publication of this article, Wilson said that there is no record of V being included in any Chorus materials. So who's V. Speher? I was included in some of Chorus's decks, like we have access to V when you do not. Said V. Spahar, a liberal content creator with over 3.5 million followers on TikTok. And then Wilson said there is no record of V being included in any Chorus materials, nor being named as part of the effort. Okay, but this guy's saying that he was included in some of Chorus's decks. What? Okay, so it's just a content creator, a liberal TikToker, said that it was insinuated he had some kind of, like, Chorus had access to him. Okay, what's the other update that when it's talking about restrictions here? Some influencers for Chorus creators incubator program. Okay, Wilson maintained in a post-publication email that creators are free to work with other groups or take on other partnerships outside the course program and say whatever they want as part of that work or on their own. They're free to work with other groups or take on other partnerships. So basically you can join other like marketing companies. Okay. Wilson did not reply to a request for comment before the article was published. But he says your names aren't showing up on like reports from the FEC. Wilson said, I don't know, like did he say that they don't have restrictions on, like they don't have to run meetings with liberal politicians through Chorus? I don't know. Who really gives a shit? Okay. So there was no retraction. You know what? You know what I want to hear? I want to hear this guy, the king of the liberals himself, talking about this article. Because we all know how much Ethan Klein hates Taylor Lorenz. I don't know why.
Both of them.
It's weird. It's weird. It's a completely out of field thing for Ethan to hate an outspoken female leftist that is in favor, that doesn't hate Hassan, and is nominally in favor of a free Palestine.
We got to talk to Eli, I feel like.
You think he'd call in?
Who?
Yeah, probably.
Who?
Eli Lilly? Ari? Is he Ari or Eli?
It's Ari.
Love said Eli.
You said Eli.
Well, I said Eli because you said Eli.
No. Roll the clip.
We should. I actually kind of like the idea of having him call in just to see what happened. By the way, total aside. But Taylor Lorenz is getting absolutely fucking dragged.
Did you
and
check
it's the best
your
thing ever.
Message from me right before the show?
No, would you message me? When you message me, you know you can talk to me. You can just turn your head. Oh, this thumbnail's sick, bro.
Not
really?
that.
I was a little bit
thumbnail.
I was a bit
Oh, man.
self-conscious about it.
I have a feeling you should take Ethan's mic out.
Oh my god, you sent me naked messages?
Oh my god. Jeez. Eli.
Please. Oh, she sent you a message? Oh my god. This lady has got a lot of fucking nerve. She wrote this, and we're going to talk about this, but she wrote this like really fucking malicious hit piece on basically all the big liberal creators who.
Bro, the way, okay, I haven't seen this yet, but he's actually going to sit there and describe it as a malicious hit piece when she like literally never even delved into any of the creators. She just described the nature of the contracts and then listed the creators, and then spent the rest of the article talking about the natures of the contracts and the relationship that Chorus has with these people. Not specifically, not like with each specific person, and like talked about how their content was formed and how they're completely bought and paid for by this group. But like, sure, she listed the people that she was aware of, like the biggest names that she was aware of getting money from them. Oh, she wrote a malicious article smearing the biggest liberal content creators.
And all the like most reputable, like hardworking, honest, the dudes who are really just trying to push like liberal values and, you know, restore.
Once again, like I know I don't need to repeat this, but I will. The issue with doing party line propaganda is that if that party's wrong, you can't speak the truth. If the party that you're doing propaganda for and being paid to do propaganda for is wrong, then you're also going to be wrong. That's the issue with it.
Or sanity. Mm-hmm. And she did this huge hit piece accusing them all of taking like dark money. And in actuality, they were taking like, and by the way, she compares it to like Tim Pool, who was getting paid millions of dollars
by
from
Russia.
No, they
by Russia. And these people are just being paid by the party that was in control of the U.S. while the United States was funding a genocide. That's all these people are being paid by. Also, it's literally dark money if you can't disclose. If it's written in the contract that you can't disclose where you're getting it from. Like, that's the definition of dark money. Oh, I don't know where the money came from.
They were getting
Russia.
They were getting a stipend of like $6,000 a month, and what they were doing was being like trained, like media literacy and stuff, how to handle like how
to make YouTube videos. They were getting like mentorship from
and it wasn't
other
even
bigger
a secret. That's
creators.
the thing. Like one of the guys who made it is this popular liberal commentator Brian Tyler Cohen. He co-created it. He's talked about it all the time. It's in no way a secret. And this guy volunteers his time. He doesn't even make a dime from it. So let me see what Taylor sent you. I barely spoke about it.
You want to see on my phone?
She is replying to everyone.
I don't
You
usually...
doing okay, Tay-Tay?
She is. Yeah. I haven't been...
Really? You're going to criticize someone online for being active in their replies when your boss is Ethan Klein, when you are Ethan Klein?
Following it super closely, but I've been seeing some of the clips of the creators that were part of this program pushing back on the article. And she
Well,
is
that's a
replying to all of them.
screenshot.
She's
I
like
don't know if you need to
she's
click on
fighting
any
in
of
the
the
comment
stuff.
section. So
So I might remind you that me and Taylor were previously going at it in our DMs. She blocked me, and then now she's messaging Ela to message me.
The last time,
She is not blocked by me, by the way.
the last time me and her talked, by the way, was because she offered to help us with Reddit against narcs.
That's weird. She said you begged her.
And then she said I begged her. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, just before we went live, I saw a text from Taylor Lawrence.
Yeah, let me read this to you guys.
But I don't know if we want to get into it because we're saying we want to do a VOD on demand next week about this topic.
This is all we have important business.
We
to
have
attend to.
so much to go through today.
Yeah, and I also have some more info.
Honestly,
we'll
I
get
don't
it.
think we're
No,
talking
not about Taylor
because
Lorenz. I don't know anything
it's
about
like-
that. I'm about Dan
Well, it's
Clinton.
a story that's like playing out right now.
We'll put a earmark in that.
There you go.
Earmark in it. Hey. All right, whatever. Yeah, I'm not watching these stupid fucking VODs that they're putting out. What are these VODs that they're putting out? Reacting to Reddit stories with my parents. Ooh. Oh man. A lowest form of content. Reacting to Reddit stories with my parents? Hassan Piker's most embarrassing confession. Doubling down on Destiny, he did it. And hey, good job, buddy. You broke 200k views. Good job. That like you must be happy with that one. The blind and deaf, and like, oh, the guy who's like, I think I'm gonna join Kick because YouTube doesn't treat people properly, and YouTube and Twitch have an anti-Semitic problem. Meanwhile, on Kick, a guy beating the shit out of another person. The guy like filming himself torturing his friend until his friend dies. Like, oh yeah, Kick seems to be like the good place to go to. Aiden Ross is there. Who else is there? Fucking like Andrew Tate probably. God, that's embarrassing. So anyway, yeah, I feel like we covered this. This shit is fucked up, but yeah, not surprising. Like you can do the, I mean, I guess you can just do the Palestine test if people are talking about Palestine. They're not paid by the marketing company that is serving the Democratic Party. I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb here. David Pakman. I don't know. Let's finish off this video.
I'm one of the larger creators in the current cohort. I want to help others grow. I want to mentor people. I want to grow the left media space. That's something I've been advocating for years. And now the circular firing squad is getting going. You look at TikTok, you look at these different platforms, people going after each other, most of it based on
Did you just say TikTok? Like the mint?
And now the circular firing squad is getting going. You look at TikTok, you look at these different platforms, people going after each other, most of it based on misunderstandings or misreporting about what's happening. Now,
once again, didn't list a single thing that was misreported in that article.
let me go to another aspect of this. I've seen messages like, oh, David, when you said X in 2024, that must have been because they told you to. Oh, David, this explains your take on Bolivia from 2017. Now I get why you said that. Or when you did that interview in 2022, it must have been because Chorus told you to. Even if you wrongly believed that I was now completely compromised by my participation in this group, this thing is brand new. It's like 8 weeks old or something like that, maybe 10 weeks old, something like this. So the revisionism of going back and going, now I understand why David, not only are they not directing content today, this thing is brand new. So that's just like impossible. One other thing I want to mention. The article identifies my friend Brian Tyler Cohen as the co-founder of this group. And now he's being attacked as well. His motives being impugned. Brian worked on this as a volunteer. He has spent hundreds of hours for not a penny on this project.
Dude, Oh my god. If you're gonna bring up a criticism, why don't you address the criticism? Don't No one's like, oh, Brian Tyler Cohen made this group so that he could get rich off of it. Um no, like Brian Tyler Cohen wanted to make a leftist media, not a leftist, but liberal media marketing agency to create and to activate more liberal media influencers. That's yeah. If people are impugning him for not being actually independent and just doing Democratic Party propaganda, that's a valid criticism. Like, address that. Don't be like, oh well, he did this out of the goodness of his own heart and he didn't take a salary for it. Yeah, like, he wants to create a media marketing ecosystem, and that's also going to help him. Like, sure, he can get money from this without actually taking a salary or creating it.
Solely because he, like me, believes we need this type of organization on the left. They're killing us on the right. He doesn't need to be doing this for himself. He's trying to do this to build up left-wing content creators, as am I. And so the framing of Brian as some kind of villain in this entire thing, it's just farcical and pathetic. So the bottom line is we need more of this on the left, not less. We need more organization and infrastructure.
Well, just be honest about it then. Like, a little bit of transparency would be refreshing here. Just like I've been telling Rand, like, how much are you getting paid? Like, how do you join? If you're saying that you need more of this, then talk about it more. And, like, once again, man, you can make yourself accessible to more leftist content creators, and that would be a big boost. As you say, if you're mentoring someone, that'd be good. But it doesn't have to be only behind the scenes. You can be transparent about things. You can have a good media ecosystem without explicitly paying people to, you know, to say the things that you want to say and make them sign contracts that make sure they can't interact with politicians or do any kind of support for candidates without the marketing agency being their babysitter looking over their shoulder the entire time. Even if Wired exposed some dark DNC scandal, we have bigger mega regime fish to fry regardless. I mean, yeah, sure. Like, yeah, this is kind of inconsequential when you are talking about Donald Trump. But then again, when you're talking about the horrors of a Trump regime and basically a Trump dictatorship right now that we're staring in the face of, and that's a real possibility of happening very soon. Like, we're already kind of sliding our way there. When you're talking about the horrors of that, it is important that you understand the people that are on your side trying to fight against that. And if you look at guys like David Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen, who are just beholden to the Democratic Party line and towing that line nonstop, you're not going to have criticism of them against these Democrats that are supposed to be fighting back against Trump. And if the Democrats aren't doing a good job of fighting back against Trump, a lack of criticism is actually supporting Trump. Like, you can talk all day about if Trump is dead, or if JD Vance did that, or Marco Rubio did this, or Ron DeSantis forgot Trump's name, or whatever. You have to, like, take a critical look at the people that are supposedly fighting for you and actually try to help them fight harder. I don't know, man. It's ridiculous to not be critical of the Democrats right now when their approval rating is at a shockingly low level, when you see how bad of a job Donald Trump's doing as president right now. It's fucking scary, man. It's fucking scary that some of the biggest channels are completely turning a blind eye to all of the Democratic Party's inadequacies. And if those are the people that the Democratic politicians are going to continuously be talking with, we're fucked. Like, if Democrats are not going to be talking with guys like Hassan, Adam Friedland, people like Crystal Ball, and getting criticized and being like, hey, you can do more, like, our party's in the gutter right now, why is this? if that's going to end and the only interaction they get with people that isn't like CNN or Fox News or any of the legacy media are guys that are actually paid Democratic talking heads like David Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen, who are fucked. They're just going to be told that, oh, you're doing a great job. I don't know, man. I've not heard Brian Tyler Cohen or David Pakman like ever criticize Democrats, at least to their face. Okay, let's see. What's this? Oh yeah, Bernie Sanders. What I want to talk about. So, okay. Yeah, let's Hamas ceasefire. Hamas is one strategy. Israel and Hamas reach a new ceasefire in Gaza. Let's just look this up. I mean, it's so hard to find the reporting on this. This was posted 2 minutes ago. Israel rules out partial ceasefire, demands comprehensive deal. Israel ceasefire dilemma, Hamas hostages in the price of delay. Israel to halt airdrops ahead of Gaza City offensive as hostage families lash out. Trump holds a meeting on Gaza. Qatar says Israel. This was 5 days ago. Qatar says Israel yet to respond to Gaza's ceasefire proposal. Israel seems unwilling to reach an agreement as it has not yet responded to the ceasefire proposal agreed by Hamas earlier this month. Foreign Ministry spokesperson of mediator Qatar said. We are in contact with all parties. Basically, like, yeah, Hamas is offering to do a ceasefire. Like, it's going to get rid of hostages or return hostages, and Israel's been completely ignoring of it. Take a look at this. The media line. What is this? Trusted Mideast News. Israel's culture minister said Sunday that the government will not consider a temporary ceasefire with Hamas, declaring that only a comprehensive agreement is acceptable. So, like, the reason that Israel is refusing to do a temporary ceasefire with Hamas and saying that we want to do a comprehensive agreement is not out of actual desire to get any kind of peace and to get any kind of long-term stability. It's actually the exact opposite. A comprehensive agreement is way more difficult to obtain because there's more details you have to work out. Israel is saying this so that they don't have to accept this temporary ceasefire, which would save lives. It would immediately stop the fighting, like until Israel breaks the ceasefire, obviously. Every expert that's getting interviewed about this, that's not a complete Zionist, is saying that Israel refusing to accept refusing to accept a temporary ceasefire, temporary and immediate ceasefire, it's going to make it way more complicated. And while they're working out the complications, not that you should ever assume Israel's working in good faith for a permanent ceasefire with Hamas. Israel's bombing Gaza. They're preparing their offensive for Gaza City. They're like actually engaging in their offensive and their ethnic cleansing of Gaza. So yeah, the idea that they actually want a comprehensive plan is bullshit. That is a talking point that they can use to justify like not actually doing the temporary ceasefire. And Israel's done this in the exact opposite way before too. Remember back in like March and April when was that the time when they had that temporary ceasefire with Hamas, when Trump, was it like in February when Trump was like, oh yeah, we need to have an actual ceasefire deal done. Israel refused to try to actually engage in a longer ceasefire, and they're like, no, let's just do like a temporary ceasefire where you give us the hostages, but we're not going to have any kind of promises that we're going to meaningfully work towards a long-term ceasefire deal, which was in the original plan. The original plan was in multiple stages, and the second and third stages of which being like, we're going to work more and more to try to get a permanent ceasefire and like a permanent truce so that we can get into like total withdrawal of IDF from Gaza and then some kind of semblance of peace. And Israel's like, nah, we're going to ignore that and just say, you give us all of the hostages now or we're going to attack you. So it's like, back then, like a few months ago, they gave up a more comprehensive deal in favor of a short-term deal. And now they're saying that we don't want to do a short-term deal because we want a more comprehensive deal. It's literally just like all roads, whatever they say, the consequences of their actions leads to more Palestinian death. That's the effect of what Israel's doing, and whatever they're saying, you can ignore it and just be like, okay, well, they're saying this to like try to defend the fact that they want to kill more Palestinians. So what is this? Speaking ahead of a cabinet meeting, Culture Minister Miki Zohar told Channel 12 that the government has ruled out any limited deal to free some hostages in exchange for a short pause in fighting. Like, just listen to that, man. Listen to that. The fucking morons that I'm sure you've experienced if you're vocal about Israel-Palestine at all, or even if you're not, but like other people in your life are, that say Israel just wanting to get the hostages back. Ethan motherfucking Klein. Hamas would be able to end this war if they just gave Israel the hostages back. You hear that from Ethan Klein, right? Perfect example of a Zionist who's a dumbass. And then you have this. The Israeli government is like, we've ruled out any limited deal to free some hostages in exchange for a short pause in fighting. Okay, there you go. There you go. The hostages are meaningless. They don't care about the hostages. It just so simple as that. I go to the culture minister Miki Zohar. The government has ruled out any limited deal. They're literally ruling out hostage release deals. Okay. There's a clear decision of the state of Israel, and in my opinion, it may be expressed in a clear way in the coming days. Full deal only. It's not going to be a full deal only. That's just an excuse to keep killing Palestinians while rejecting a temporary ceasefire. There's no possibility anymore of a partial deal. Israel has made a decision that a partial deal is not on the agenda. The only thing on the agenda is ending the war, together, of course, with bringing back all of the hostages and demilitarizing the strip. Well, bringing back the bodies of the hostages, I guess. His remarks came 2 weeks after Hamas announced that it had accepted a proposal for a 60-day ceasefire. The plan called for the release of 10 Israeli captives out of the 48 hostages believed still held in Gaza, at least 20 of whom Israel considers alive. So basically, Hamas was offering half of their hostages that are still alive to Israel in return for a 60-day ceasefire. Israel literally said nothing for 2 weeks, and then just a few hours ago said, nah, we don't want to do a temporary ceasefire. We only want to do a comprehensive ceasefire. What do you call it when a country is doing a complete invasion, a complete, like, essentially annexation and ethnic cleansing of all of the population there? The people that are being attacked and invaded are like, hey, we'll do a ceasefire if you want. The government that's doing the invasion ignores the ceasefire proposal for 2 weeks, then says, nah, we're not interested in a temporary ceasefire. We want to be killing you right up until we sign permanent truce negotiations. Like, what the fuck is this bullshit? We're not going to do a temporary ceasefire. We just want a long-term ceasefire. So we're not going to sign a temporary ceasefire. This is just total invasion, total annexation, total ethnic cleansing, and genocide. Anyone who says otherwise is, I don't know, man, just evil? That's the conclusion I'm arriving at? Woefully misinformed or evil. That's the conclusion I'm arriving at. Oh yeah, is that the one with Greta Thunberg now? The land grab yellow ribbon. Give me a fucking break. Anyone who is in favor of the hostages should actually be on the side of, let's just say, Israel's enemies. Like, there's one group in this conflict that wants to release hostages. There's one group, and it's not Israel. Okay, okay, man. Like, you just can't make this shit up. Look at this. Israel increasingly bars foreign doctors who want to volunteer in Gaza. All right, I need a break from talking, so I'm gonna play this.
That killed 5 journalists in Gaza also killed 4 medical staff and a rescue worker at the Nasser hospital. The unprecedented killing of local journalists and Israel barring almost all foreign journalists from Gaza has left doctors and nurses among the most important witnesses to the war's catastrophic toll on civilians. But now, as Jane Araf reports, Israel is increasingly rejecting foreign doctors applying to volunteer in Gaza, many of them Americans. And a note, this piece contains descriptions of death, violence, and children harmed in war.
Dr. Yasser Arain is a pediatrician from Texas whose specialty is treating the sickest of sick babies, preterm infants or those with birth defects. He volunteered last year in Gaza. He says it was terrible and traumatic, and he couldn't get it out of his mind. Arain, who's 40, decided to go back. He was accepted by a medical aid organization, had his credentials approved by the UN Health Organization, took leave from his practice, and bought a ticket to Jordan. And then...
So I got that approval. I had been obviously planning for months on end. And on my way to Amman, I get a text message saying that I was denied.
An arm of the Israeli military sent a message to his organization with a red line through his name. A Jordanian doctor due to go in with him was also denied. There was no explanation. Back in the U.S., Arain had been vocal about his experience, including his first patient in Gaza, a 9-day-old baby.
On April 12th, he's breastfeeding with his mother in their tent in Nusayrat refugee camp when a quadcopter came down and started shooting. And a bullet went in through one side of his skull and outside of the other.
Medical aid organizations say the rejections are part of a pattern by Israel. The head of the Palestinian American Medical Association, Dr. Mustafa Muslah, says rejections have increased over the last 3 months.
I would say more than 50% of the doctors that we send end up being denied.
Although the applications are sent to the UN weeks in advance, the unexplained Israeli denials are relayed just hours before the mission starts.
So this doctor takes 4 weeks of time off, and then literally like 4 to 6 hours before the entry, we get the confirmation of approval or denial.
That means that security convoys taking medical staff to Gaza often leave half empty.
Those are specialties that are highly needed, and if those doctors did not get in, those patients will not get treated. It's as simple as that.
He said the day before, an oncologist was among 2 doctors scheduled to go into Gaza with Palma, as his organization is known. Both were denied. The increasing rejections are in addition to previous Israeli restrictions.
Like, yeah, the way that it's like 24 hours in advance. First of all, it's an arm of the Israeli military. It's just some fucking asshole like, oh yeah, fuck these Palestinians. Like, the doctors can go home. And the way that it's 24 hours in advance is, or not even 24 hours in advance. Like, you're literally traveling for 20 hours, and then you're on your last leg of the journey, and you're told you can't come here. You're gonna get detained and deported if you come into Israel to try to go into Palestine and help people out. That's to fuck over the doctors. That's specifically as a retaliation against people that want to help Palestinians. Like, we know that if the members of the IDF that are saying the doctors can't help Palestinians could, they'd kill the doctors. And we know that because they are killing doctors. They're killing doctors in Gaza. But it's a bad look if you kill doctors that aren't in Gaza that are trying to help people out. So they're trying to fuck them over in as many ways as possible. Part of fucking them over is, instead of saying at the beginning of their application, you can't come, You say it after every part of their application has been approved and they've taken all of that time off of work and they've put up money for travel expenses and like dedicated weeks of their life to this. Then you say, no, fuck off, go home. And like, holy shit, dude, like this. Just the disturbingness. Like these kids wearing a Captain America shirt while having his life, like this kid's probably going to die because of America, and he's wearing like a symbol of you know, an imaginary symbol of American exceptionalism and idealism. He's gonna get killed by America because of because there's too many cowardly American politicians to put their careers on the line. Not even put their careers on the line, but just like give up a small fraction of their power in order to stop the horror that we're perpetuating upon these people.
Restrictions, including banning medical volunteers with Palestinian heritage and preventing teams from taking in any medical supplies, according to aid groups. Israel, in response to NPR questions, said only that the entry process is subject to prior security screening. Until May of last year, PAMA used to send in 15 to 20 doctors at a time, with up to 400 suitcases with medication and equipment.
Of course, it was not even enough, but like, you know, it was something, you know, that we at least were facilitating their work when they get in.
With so many Gaza journalists killed, and Israel barring almost all foreign reporters, doctors and nurses have been among the last remaining witnesses to what's happening in Gaza. In a hotel room in Amman, Dr. Mimi Sayad, an American emergency room physician, has just been told 2 hours ago that Israel rejected her for her third trip in. Sayad has also been vocal about the medical catastrophe in Gaza, speaking publicly with officials including the UN Secretary General.
Just seems like, you know, this is a targeting of certain people who are going to be exposing the truth of what's happening in Gaza. Another way to prevent that.
She and a French doctor had already landed in Jordan, a requirement for being considered for the missions, before both were told they were rejected. On her previous missions to Gaza, Sayad befriended a sixth-year medical student.
I'm very close with, and I speak to her daily. She's like my sister. And when I had to tell her the news that I was denied, you know, the message she sent me is shattering.
The student did not want to be identified because of fear of retaliation by Israel. The message she sent, the sound of drones in the background, seemed like a goodbye.
I no longer have any hope. Everything feels over. Mimi, I don't want anything from life except death. Because I truly believe I will find peace in it. I wish there another chance to see you, my dear, hug you, but I know I won't make it.
The message left Sayad in tears.
And I can't tell you what that makes me feel like. It's devastating, and I feel hopeless that I can't provide anything for her.
Despite the increased danger, she's desperate to go back. She says it's because she has small children, and she feels like all of Gaza's children are her children. Jane Araf, NPR News, Amman.
Right, that's so fucked up. Like this has been the goal of Israel's campaign in Gaza, to make a life there so miserable for the lucky people that have survived this 2 years of brutal genocide that they'd rather die than continue to exist in the fucking worst place on earth. Like, they've made the conditions there just so bad that people there, like a medical student there, wants to die because they have no hope. And I don't know, man, like, why would they have hope when the worst, like the most radical thing that's being done to help these, I mean, it sounds so sick to say, like, to help these people, but yeah, I guess to anger Israel is the UK being like, if Israel doesn't stop starving Palestinians by October, then we're going to recognize Palestine as an independent state. It's like, dude, there's not going to be Palestinians there by October if you don't do anything. What the fuck? Like, holy shit. We have the United States just absolutely doing everything in its power to facilitate this genocide, Israel actually doing the genocide, and then the pushback that you get is like, I guess just it turned out to be completely toothless convictions from the ICJ being like Netanyahu is a war criminal, and then like the UK and France being like, oh, we're going to say that Palestine's a real state if you continue to starve them to death. Wow, so brave. Meanwhile, they're killing all journalists that are in Palestine. They're killing doctors that are there. They're barring journalists from entering it, and they're barring doctors from entering it. Oh, you can't enter Gaza if you have Palestinian descent as a doctor. Like they're just saying that they're racist. Why? It's time to stop referring to Israel as anything other than a rogue terror state. The fact that the NPR is still giving Israel the benefit of the doubt and like reporting on them like they're some kind of rational actor is mind-boggling to me. It's mind-boggling to me that you can report a story like what other kind of story do we have on here? What do we have? NPR, let's just search up Israel ceasefire. Israel ceasefire. Okay, this was August 5th. August 21st, 2025. Hamas's one top strategy. Do we have anything more recently than that? August 24th. No, let's just see their news world. So let's just look for like the most recent Israel-Palestine story from them. Not even that much. Oh, this is the one that we just saw. I guess that was the most recent. We didn't do enough. How U.S. policy failed Palestinians. Let's listen to this. Is this a listen or is this just an article? In late February 2024, Jordanian cargo planes flew over northern Gaza, dropping large pallets of food attached to giant parachutes. The area had been without consistent aid for weeks. The Israeli military was focusing much of its operations there, cutting off available delivery routes for international organizations. This sounds like, okay, the fucking way that it's written is making it sound like the aid that was being delivered to Palestine, to Gaza, was cut off as a side effect of Israel's military operations, rather than the intent of the military operations. The design of the operations was to cut off the aid. Since the war began 5 months earlier, dude, fucking hell, calling it a war. Like, dude, it's August 28th. You're still calling it a war? Okay. Senior U.S. officials have been in intense discussions with Israelis to open land routes. Now they watch the Jordanian airdrops on TV. The mockery of this complete bullshit PR stunt was universal. Everybody knew that it wasn't going to make a meaningful dent. But only a few days later, the U.S. decided it would be carrying out its own airdrops. What was striking was how quickly we pivoted from criticism to emulation, not because we thought it was the right way to get aid in, but because faced with an inability to diplomatically move the Israelis at that point to increase trucks, we were going to throw everything at the wall. So you can't actually get your supposedly top ally to let in food trucks to a starving population, which is literally like a requirement by international law that they need to do. But you can't get your top ally to do the bare minimum legal requirement. So you're going to throw everything at the wall, no matter how inefficient, no matter how expensive, and frankly, no matter how dangerous, because Palestinians did get killed by falling cargo that the U.S. was dropping in. Famine has been confirmed in Gaza, according to the world. Why is this not an article? Why is this not a story that NPR is reporting on? Is this a story that you have? Famine declared in northern Gaza. Okay, let's listen to this.
A UN-backed panel of experts on starvation has declared that northern Gaza is in a full-blown famine, with 500,000 people facing, quote, catastrophic conditions.
This comes.
Remember Loner Box? Remember Loner Box? How do you know if it's famine? The definition of famine is like 2.3 people dying every day. Did 2.3 people die in Gaza every day? Impossible to tell. You can't trust the Gaza Health Ministry because it's Hamas run. So like they've been saying that they're at risk of famine for years now. Yeah, I think it's overblown if you're calling it a famine, right? Oh, one skinny child. That's probably a staged photo.
Almost 2 years of war and Israeli limitations on aid entering the territory. For 2.5 months, it blockaded all aid. Israel blames the food crisis on Hamas, which it accuses of hijacking aid. No evidence has been presented publicly to show that. Aid groups have also told NPR they haven't seen that systemic theft. Today's declaration, according to one leading aid group, is the first time a famine has ever been declared in the Middle East.
With us to talk about this is NPR's international affairs correspondent, Jackie.
Bro, this shit is the first time a famine has ever been declared in the Middle East. Ah, man. Oh, wow, Israel setting a record. Another first for Israel. First democracy, first famine, the first man-made famine that they made. Awesome. Wow, Israel truly is an exceptional country.
Jackie Northam in Tel Aviv. Good morning, Jackie.
Morning, Layla.
Okay, so this expert panel is saying for the first time that northern Gaza is in the grip of famine. What did they find?
Well, the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or the IPC, is an international panel of independent experts on food scarcity, and it informs the UN on food insecurity and malnutrition. And they've been watching the worsening.
Yeah, I saw that Israel bombed Yemen and killed the president of the Houthis, like the Houthi cabinet. I mean, yeah, just completely rogue state, like rogue terrorist state, bombing everyone possible. Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll finish covering this
The worsening crisis in Gaza for many months now, and had previously warned of famine conditions there, but they stopped short of what they actually came out and announced today, what they call Phase 5, which is the most severe level of hunger crisis. They say it's characterized by starvation and destitution and death, and it's taken hold in the north of Gaza, which includes Gaza City. The report says 500,000 people are facing that level of starvation, and it also warns that another 1 million people, that's just over half the population of Gaza, are facing severe food deprivation. Additionally, it said that at least 132,000 children under the age of 5 are at risk of death from acute malnutrition in the coming year.
Now, Jackie, some have been asking why this took so long, given the images of starvation.
Dude, like, Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, is like, we distributed 7 million meals in Gaza over the course of a week for a population of 2 million people. So that'd be like half a meal a day for everyone in Gaza. And that's what was being expressed as a success. Half a meal a day from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the fucking CIA set up in collaboration with the IDF to kill Palestinians there. Half a meal a day. And that was being lauded as a success by this country, man. Oh, man. I'm sure Ethan Klein's been covering it. Like, he always says that he holds the plight of the Palestinians at the top of his mind. Okay.
Of starvation from Gaza.
Well, part of it is lack of outside access to the Gaza Strip. And these numbers, high as they are, the IPC says they're likely an underestimate. And the IPC warned that those figures are likely only to get worse.
How has Israel responded to the report?
The Israeli military agency charged with transferring aid to Gaza called the IPC report false and biased. It said there was no famine in Gaza, where Israel's been fighting Hamas since October 2023, when militants launched a deadly attack.
We all know these child crisis actors, right? We all know these children love to be just actors, like paid actors. They're method actors. You have Christian Bale and Palestinian babies. They really take their roles as pretending to be victims of genocide seriously. This is not
live from NPR News in Washington. I'm
not what I was listening to.
In Israel. But Israel has restricted food, medicine, and other essentials going into the territory, saying that Hamas steals them and uses them for its own purpose. And for several months earlier this year, it stopped all aid going into Gaza. It now oversees the distribution of some food through a handful of U.S.-backed distribution sites, but hundreds of Palestinians have been shot dead by Israeli forces overseeing those sites since they opened.
Does this report clearly say who's responsible for the famine?
No, it doesn't. The IPC report does not appoint blame. It said what's needed is a ceasefire and an end to the war so aid can be flooded into Gaza. But, aid groups have been warning for months that famine is already settling into Gaza. As I said, Israel denies it's to blame, and all of this comes as Israel is preparing to launch a new offensive against Gaza City, and it's already calling up tens of thousands of extra soldiers for a campaign to destroy Hamas, it says. And just last night, there was a lot of bombing in and around the densely populated Gaza City.
NPR's international affairs correspondent Jackie Northam in Tel Aviv. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Describing the situation as a race against time, the report says that at least 132,000 children under the age of 5 could die from acute malnutrition in the coming months. This estimate has doubled since an IPC report in May showing just how drastically the conditions have worsened in Gaza in recent weeks. 55,000 malnourished pregnant and breastfeeding women will require an urgent nutrition response. The Ministry of Health in Gaza said Thursday 271 people have died so far in the famine, including 112 children. This is the first time famine has been confirmed in the Middle East, and it's happened in a 25-mile-long strip of land where trucks piled with thousands of tons of food are parked at border crossings. People in Gaza are now dying of starvation, are never more than a few miles from warehouses filled with food aid they have no way to reach. This is the direct result of months of deliberate restrictions on aid and the destruction of Gaza's food, health, and water systems and relentless bombardment. Shajada Dayoan McKenna, the CEO of Mercy Corps, said in a response to the statement, "This is a man-made catastrophe, entirely preventable and entirely unconscionable." Oh, interesting. So they were able to say that this is a direct result of months of deliberate restrictions on aid, and it's a man-made catastrophe, and yet they still were able to not list that Israel was responsible, and it was the goal of Israel to do the starvation in the sentence from the CEO of Mercy Corps. Israel was quick to respond to the report. Israel's foreign ministry accused the IPC of making a tailor-made report to fit Hamas's fake campaign. Like, what does that even mean? A fake campaign? They're not actually campaigning to say that Israel's starving people? It's a real campaign. There is no famine in Gaza. The coordination of government. I love it. I love it. You walk outside. You see a red apple hanging on a tree. You're gonna have the Israel's foreign minister there saying there is no apple on that tree. You're wrong. Where you're gonna get the fucking bald kid from The Matrix. There is no spoon. You look at a Palestinian child, all of a sudden his body starts contorting in abstract ways that you can't comprehend. There is no Palestinian child there. The foreign ministry, who is this person? Coordination of Government Activities, COGAT, the Israeli military body in charge of Palestinian civilian affairs. I love that we have an Israeli military body that's in charge of Palestinian affairs and Palestinian civilian affairs, and that's just a normal thing. an occupying army's like a section of an occupying military that is in charge of the civilian affairs of the people they're occupying. I love that that's normal. And they said that the report is based partial and unreliable sources, many of them affiliated with Hamas. Oh yeah, of course. Hamas. It's like it's bad soil. Anything that comes out of it is going to be tainted. The office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu posted point-by-point arguments against the report. Okay, we need to look at this. This is going to be great. Including allegations that it ignores Israel's humanitarian efforts. What are the humanitarian efforts? Humanely shooting Palestinians as they come to get food? Oh yeah, we're being so we're being so humane because a bullet is a quicker death than starving. That's Israel's humanitarian outreach, shooting Palestinians rather than letting them starve to death. Okay, so this was August 28th. The IPC report is an outright lie. Israel does not have a policy of starvation. Israel has a policy of preventing starvation. Since the beginning of the war, Israel has enabled 2 million tons of aid to enter the Gaza Strip, over 1 ton of aid per person. Okay, what is this? Today, the prices have plunged because of Israel's surge in humanitarian aid in Gaza. The report says nothing about the collapse in prices. The facts: 101,000 trucks, 2 million tons of aid have entered Gaza facilitated by Israel since October 7th. So, once again, like, this is since October 7th. Over 1 ton of aid per person in Gaza. Let's see, how many trucks needed in Gaza? How much aid has entered Gaza? This was August 5th. Gaza is now facing its fiercest fight, absolute hunger. The widespread hunger has been imposed by the military of Israel. Body begins to break down. Okay, so the aid allowed into Gaza. Before October 2023, around 500 aid trucks entered Gaza daily, a number that has not been reached since. So that's 500 aid trucks. What do we have? 500 times 365. So that'd be around, like, if it was like 3 million aid trucks, right? If it was at the same rate of trucks entering in Gaza and it wasn't lowered. What do we have here? But our approvals are inconsistent. Only 76 out of 138 convoy requests were approved between July 19th and July 25th. Aid allowed inside Gaza and distribution. Before October 2023, about 500 aid trucks entered Gaza daily, nearly 15,000 each month. Since the Israeli siege began, only a fraction has been allowed in, leading to a widespread starvation and malnutrition. So they're saying no aid trucks. 2024, you had, this is, I guess, the month. So it's 15,000 per month, and then it dropped off to like less than 3,000, less than 5,000. In April of 2024 is over 5,000. However, replace a network of some 400 distribution points, aid under fire. Yeah, and then they're talking about how many people have been killed while trying to get aid. As of August 5th, at least 1,487 people have been killed and 10,578 injured trying to collect aid. Damn, I did not realize it was that high. I thought it was under 1,000 still. Israel insists that GHF is needed to prevent Hamas from stealing aid entering Gaza. Aid seekers killed by GHF sites. Then you have the airdrops. Palestinians starved. Like, God, yeah. But according to Netanyahu, because you can see here, You know, there's these stock images of foodstuffs that he threw up random numbers and says that that's the price of things at the market. And Yahoo learned how to use Google. That's cool. It's like getting stock images throwing, like, what the fuck is this shit? This is the same shit where they created some kind of computer graphic and they're like, this is evidence that Hamas has a military base underneath a hospital. They just searched up 6 Google images and then threw up little shitty looking labels. And it's like, this is the price of things at Palestinian markets. Community kitchens run by NGOs with Israeli facilitation produce 400,000 hot meals daily for civilians. Rome Shalom Crossing. Journalists saw hundreds of pallets of food left untouched because UN agencies refused to distribute them. Okay, I don't know. This is all bullshit. You just can't really, like, listen to anything this guy's saying. Oh, there's pallets of aid untouched because the UN refused to distribute them. When you're blocking UN trucks from entering Gaza with your military. Anyway, that's fucked up. Israel's also been bombing Yemen and killed the prime minister of the Houthis with an airstrike. So they struck a Houthi regime military target. Once again, like, the Houthis are one of the only groups of people that have been trying to resist Israel and put pressure on Israel to stop the genocide. And of course, Israel's not going to take that. Like, even if you don't try to do anything to Israel, they're going to bomb you. Like what they're doing in Syria right now, bombing Syria and annexing southern Syria. So, not great. But yeah, I'm sure Ethan Klein's been talking about the famine that's happening, unless he's like a follower of Netanyahu's Twitter account. Let's see, maybe on his VODs? I don't know, maybe we should watch this one. Kind of curious.
Welcome back, everybody, to another video VOD on demand. Today, I came across this video by a small YouTuber, actually, and it's a really interesting video, which I recommend everybody go watch entirely. It's from this channel Conduit, which has less than 3,000 subs. It was actually sent to me by the great Hutch, who's a fan of his, and he's like,
oh, Jesus Christ. The trifecta made in hell. Hutch sending this guy to Ethan Klein.
You should check this out. It's really good. I'm glad to see it's actually getting some views here, 40,000. But this guy spent 1 week watching Hassan's stream, dedicated, right? And he's like me. He feels the same way about Hassan as I do. So he's like, I want to see exactly what this guy is doing over there. So he spent a week, and there's lots of little interesting things in here. However, there's one thing in here that left everybody that's seen it, that I know, totally gobsmacked.
Sorry,
So I want to show you guys what a fraud this dude is.
This is the one thing about Judaism that I do not know. Like, I mean, I've learned deep lore on this broadcast about Sukkot, about the citrus, about the stick and the tent. It's just the holy wall. I don't know. Wait, what the fuck? You don't know either? How do you not know? You're Jewish. Why do Christians go there and like cry and stuff? I'm gonna be real. It's not much. It's the outside wall of the second temple. This is the Temple Mount, mega holy, great place to pray. It's just the wall, man. Calm down. Like,
There's a lot to unpack there. He says he's an expert on Judaism because he knows about Sukkot, which is a minor holiday, by the way.
Yes.
It's not even one of the important holidays.
Sukkot is far from deep lore.
And then he says, but I don't know anything about the Western Wall, which is literally
So what are they even doing now? They're just recording Ethan's hate-fueled rants before the podcast and then releasing it so that the crew doesn't have to be there when he gets all unhinged and shit. I think Israel is maybe trying to ethnically cleanse the Jews from southern Syria by triggering the Sunni Bedouin. Ethan saying he doesn't get why people care about the wall at the wall. I think I did see something like that where he's like, I don't care about the wall, or like, I don't understand why people care about this. But like now, Ethan is, the Pope of the Jews.
Christians go there and like cry and stuff. I'm gonna be real. It's not much. It's the outside wall of the second temple. This is the Temple Mount, mega holy, great place to pray. It's just it's just the wall, man. Calm down. Like
There's a lot to unpack there. He says he's an expert on Judaism because he knows about Sukkot, which is a minor holiday, by the way.
Yeah,
it's not even one of the important holidays.
Sukkot
no.
is far from deep lore.
And then he says, but I don't know anything about the Western Wall, which is literally the beating heart of Jerusalem and this entire conflict. How the fuck do you not know anything?
Dude, are you fucking kidding me, Ethan? You're saying that the Western Wall is at the heart of the conflict? It's at the heart of the whole issues of Israel and Palestine. That's at the heart of it. Holy shit, dude. What disgusting propaganda. Saying that this is like a religious thing is literally what Nazis say when they're like, oh, well, like white people shouldn't get involved. It's a religious battle between Muslims and Jews fighting it out over religious artifacts in the Middle East. That's quite literally what like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Candace Owens say, where they're like, nah, it's the Christians, we should have a Christian state in America, and then we should have a Muslim state for like Palestinians, and then a Jewish state, but they're gonna fight each other, and we should just like leave our hands, wash our hands of the issue. Like, this is Nazi shit. Saying that it's a religious war between Muslims and Jews in the Middle East is indistinguishable from Nick Fuentes. I was saying earlier, Nazis are in support of Israel because it's an ethno-state where they can send Jews to. They want Jews to kill Muslims so that like everyone can have an ethno-state. That's what they want. Oh my god. This is at the heart of the conflict. No, dude. The heart of the conflict is imperialism. And it's a desire for a fascist ethno-state that's colonizing the land and cleansing it of the natives.
Anything about that? And he calls himself an expert on Middle Eastern politics. He spends all day talking about Israel. He doesn't know that it's the Western Wall. It's the holiest place for Jews. That's why everybody's fighting over Jerusalem. It's not because the scenery is great. So the Western Wall,
Jerusalem was shared for Palestinians and Jewish people.
Is the center of the old city in Jerusalem. The old city, which is the historic part of the city that has all these landmarks, is cut into 4 different sections. You have the Christian section, the Jewish section.
Also, this is completely disingenuous. He's acting like Hassan doesn't actually know that it's significant, when Hassan was just like, it's a wall. Like, he's downplaying the idea that there's religious reverence for a wall and kind of ridiculing that.
The Muslim section and the Armenian section. In the Jewish section, there is what's known as the Western Wall in English. And this is one of the remaining walls of the Great Holy Temple that was said, this wall was built 2,000 years ago. And it's said it's the closest wall to an inner sanctum in the temple where God himself dwelled. And so it's the holiest place in the Jewish religion, right here, this wall. People travel all around the world to come here. So right above the Western Wall is the Temple Mount. And this is the 3rd holiest place for Muslims. And this is where Muhammad was said to ascend to heaven. And then right next to all this is the Christian quarters, where the Holy Sepulchre is. And this is the holiest place in the Christian religion, where Jesus is said to have both been crucified and resurrected from. So here, all around the Western Wall here, in this ancient city in the middle of Jerusalem, is the most important place for Jews and Christians, and one of the most important places for Muslims. The Western Wall and all this happening in Jerusalem right here is the main reason that the Palestinians and the Israelis are fighting over the territory. Obviously, the conflict is super complicated, but like at the heart of it rests this exact location.
Why do Christians go there and like cry and stuff? Christians go.
Palestinians and the Israelis are fighting over the territory. Obviously, the conflict is super. That in Jerusalem right here is the main reason that the Palestinians and the Israelis are fighting over the territory. Obviously, the conflict is super complicated, but like at the
Oh god, dude. Oh, Ethan Klein, brave political commentator that studied 8 hours a day for 2 weeks for a debate with Hassan, where he proceeded to just be like, "Oh, cat got your tongue, Hassan." And that was his top debate tactic. Says that, oh, the main reason that this conflict is happening is because the Muslims and the Jews both want the Western Wall. That's it. That's the main reason it's happening. Obviously, it's really complicated, but that's the main reason. If it's complicated, then why are you saying this is the main reason, right? Like, are there other reasons that don't have anything to do with the wall? Like, it seems like the wall's irrelevant if you're willing to say that it's complicated. If it's the main reason, then all of these complications should also stem from that main core reason, right? Like, if what you're saying is actually true, then maybe you could explain some of the complications.
The heart of it rests this exact location.
Why do Christians go there and like cry and stuff?
He's so ignorant about it, he doesn't even realize how embarrassing it is to say this. That's how little he knows. If he knew even just a little bit more, but not enough, he would know that this would be an insane thing to admit on video. Christians go there because this temple is where Jesus taught. Jesus is said to have taught and existed within the walls of this temple, right? This is one of the holiest places for everybody. All of that.
Yeah, Ethan, I think he knows it's a holy place for Christians. He's mocking the idea of it. Like, if I see that someone's crying at a Taylor Swift concert, I'm like, why do people care so much about Taylor Swift? And then Ethan's like, if you know so little about Taylor Swift that if you knew even a little bit more, you'd realize how embarrassing it is for you to have asked that question. No, dude. Hassan, like, does he actually think that Hassan doesn't understand that it has religious meaning for people? He's ridiculing the idea that, like, people care so much about it, like, a old fucking crumbling piece of a wall, man. Oh my god.
Everybody's like, this spot is fucking sick. All three of the major religions dabbed up on that. But then they started shoving each other. We're still trying to work it out. You know what Hassan is? He's a fake anti-Semite. At least people like Nick Fuentes.
Are these videos scripted? Or do they just have like a candid cam on Ethan when he's going on his daily rants about Hassan, and then they edit down the most insane parts of it? If these are scripted, goddamn, dude, you gotta work on your material. These jokes are not landing.
Listen, these guys who really set their mind to it, they know the lore so that they can build all the conspiracies. And Hassan, you always talk about how you were raised Muslim, how you're culturally a Muslim. The Western Wall and this entire area is super important to Muslims too. And you don't know anything about that? Truth is, you talk about this issue day in, day out, and you don't know anything. You don't know anything about anything. Even without the context of like the modern conflict with Israel and Palestine, throughout history of these negotiations that have been trying to go on here, the sticking point in these negotiations is what to do with Jerusalem between the Muslims and the Jews. How to split it up.
No, it's not. What are you... The sticking point is the negotiations on what to do with Jerusalem? Dude, holy fuck. Israel's literally trying to kill all of the Palestinians in Gaza, and then they're going to turn around and do the exact same thing with the ones in the West Bank. And you're saying the sticking point in the negotiations is what to do with Jerusalem. Hamas is refusing to accept a ceasefire deal because they don't have the correct like splitting up of time and space of Jerusalem. It's like when it's like a messy divorce when you don't have shared custody of your kids. We can't negotiate with each other in good faith because it's too touchy of a subject in what happens to Jerusalem. Not that Israel is amassing a massive army to try to march into Gaza City, the most populous place in Gaza, which is an already extremely densely packed location, full of non-combatants, and then genociding the people there. Like, Not that there's actually a literal famine going on, but it's because we don't know what we're going to do with Jerusalem. You know, Hamas has just been holding out because they can only visit Jerusalem like 2 days of the week, and they want to be able to visit it 4 days of the week. And that's the biggest sticking point right now. If only Hamas would concede to do shared custody of Jerusalem rather than asking for Jerusalem all by themselves, like for having full custody of it, then we could have peace.
Who gets what? Because these are the holy sites. Why should anybody listen to you on this topic? You don't know anything about it. He doesn't even try to learn. He doesn't even try to learn. He goes, I don't know anything about it. Well, there's a good chance to educate yourself and your audience.
This is the one thing about Judaism that I do not know. Like, why do Christians go there and like cry and stuff? I'm gonna be real. It's not much. It's the outside wall of the Second Temple. This is the Temple Mount, mega holy, great place to pray.
I mean, they're being disrespectful too.
Yeah, I find it disrespectful.
Imagine I was talking about like the Al-Aqsa.
Okay, oh my fucking god. Okay, I was gonna save this until the video was over, but what is this? Ethan? What is this? I haven't seen this. Can I go full screen? Why can't I go full screen? That's his unique way of worshiping. No judging, no judgment. People can worship with their arms and their legs completely spread out like that. It's a very physical form of worship.
This is the Western Wall, the holiest place in Judaism, and the story is that it's the last remaining wall of the holiest temple that was destroyed by the Romans. I think is the story. So
he thinks it's the story. I thought he was a practicing Jew. He thinks that's the story of it. I don't know. It seems like you could have educated yourself. You might be being a little disrespectful.
It's interesting little thing. It's divided. Here's Ela. The women get this tiny little piece of shit section of the wall, and us guys swinging our cocks get all this. Hey, don't say anything to me, Ela. This is the men's side. Hey, get back in there.
Oh my god.
Anyway, people come here to pray and have a lot of fun. Really a mediocre wall, if you ask me, but hey.
It's a mediocre wall. Wow. Damn, bro.
It is what it is. People write little notes here, and they put them in the wall. You can see that. Prayer, I guess. You know, something like that. Hopefully God is going to hook it up. A couple mil. Maybe you want to get in the panties of that girl you like, you know? Throw a note in the wall, you know? You want to score some new tickets to Jeff Dunham's new hit comedy series? Put it in the wall, guy. Maybe it'll come true, you know? It's stuff like that, I guess. Not really sure what people wish for. But anyway, this is it. And we came here to shoot our new reaction video to
You're shooting a reaction video at the holiest place of Judaism. Dude, a chatter in Hassan's chat said it's really not that much. It's just a holy temple. And Ethan said that was disrespectful.
Maddie B's juicy, so hopefully that works out and you see that. And here's Ela again. You gotta stop peeking on the men's side, lady. Your arm is completely against God.
Look how egalitarian Israel is.
Power walking pace. Can't imagine power walking without an Adidas jumpsuit. sweatshirt, whatever.
Okay, anyway, Jesus Christ. Oh, you can't make this shit up, man. He literally said, oh, it's disrespectful to say it's not that big of a deal.
Thing about Judaism that I do not know. Like, why do Christians go there and like cry and stuff?
Also, I love how he's like, Hassan should, if he doesn't know, he should educate himself on this. I kind of want to watch the original video now that he's reacting to, but what's the revelation going to be? His chat told him the importance of it in like 8 words, and he's like, oh, and then he moves on. It's not some kind of massive overlook that Hassan's made, and then he's going to realize that that his entire worldview is going to be shifted by the revelation of searching up, like going to the Wikipedia page of the Western Wall.
To be real, it's not much. It's the outside wall of the Second Temple. This is the Temple Mount, mega holy, great place to pray.
I mean, they're being disrespectful too.
Yeah.
I love how, like, look, I'm going to be real, it's not much. It's the western wall of a temple, okay? Then another guy said, it's mega holy, a great place to pray, which is not disrespectful at all. That's actually more respectful of the wall than what Ethan and Hila were being. And the other chatter was also being more respectful of the place than Ethan and Hila were when they were literally there. And now they're getting all offended because of it? Holy shit.
I find it disrespectful.
Imagine I was talking about like the Al-Aqsa Mosque or the Temple Dome, which is one of the holiest places. I'm like, it's a bunch of bullshit.
Mhm.
It's just a dome. It's just a mosque. It's just a dome. I feel like that would be offensive to people. But no, not for him. He gets to be disrespectful. He gets to be proudly ignorant while telling people he's an expert. This is just pathetic.
It's just the wall, man. Calm down.
He would never tolerate that level of disrespect towards Islam. In fact, it would just be a scandal.
I mean,
if I did that, if I spoke that disrespectfully about an Islamic landmark, it would be a scandal for weeks, and he wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. But that just proves the anti-Semitism that permeates you and your community, that you could look at the holiest place in Judaism, proud.
It's also one of the holiest places in Islam and Christianity. This is something you just got through establishing. Like, sure, if you want to like specifically target a some kind of like Islamic artifact and be like, who cares? Then sure, maybe that'd be more of a scandal. But Hassan explicitly said, why do Christians go there and cry? Like, I don't understand that. That was in the clip that you're reacting to. And you're like, you're anti-Semitic because you're saying Christians shouldn't be crying at this wall.
Proudly state your ignorance, but also stating you're an expert, and then to say it's just a wall. Calm down, man. It's the holiest place in Judaism. It's just kind of speaks for itself, bud.
And for as a kid growing up in Israel, you go there at least once a year. Even from school, they take you there. Everybody writes their note. As a little kid, I remember thinking, "What's my wishes?" And then
What's
you
my
fold it,
wishes?
you put it in the wall, and it's it's part of the culture. And like
Yeah.
you just say, it's just a wall, whatever. You just can't talk
If
like
it was
that
just a
about
wall,
other
there'd be no
people.
problem.
And I'm not even a religious Orthodox person, and it still means a lot to me.
Did he just say if it was just a wall, there'd be no genocide of Palestinians?
I am completely secular, and
that
I've
what he
been there a
means?
couple times, and it's a special place. I mean, it's a holy place. Anyone can feel it. It's like a spiritual place.
Dude, give me a fucking break. You literally said you went there to film a reaction video. You said that in the video. Oh, like, you recorded yourself going there. You can't pretend like you were overcome with spirituality when you were in the presence of the wall. Nah, I don't give a fuck, man. This is so, like, even the way Hila describes it, it's a part of the culture. Because she wanted to write down her wishes when she went there. I don't think kids are overcome with some kind of like spiritual fervor when they make a wish list to Santa Claus. Like, you're not describing it as a holy place. You're describing it as, like, yeah, important to the culture of Israel, but other than, like, you didn't really treat it as some kind of holy aspect of your religion as secular people that were in Israel.
place for prayer. It's a place for reflection. It's a place for...
And even just historically.
The history of it all is what makes this whole area also feel so, like, divine or just inspired. It's just so big. It's so much bigger than us, right? But Hassan, he doesn't care.
Okay, so it's divine, it's holy, you are overcome with experience. And what did you say when you were there?
And they put him in the wall. You can see that. Prayer, I guess. You know, something like that. Hopefully God is going to hook it up. A couple mil. Maybe you want to get in the panties of that girl you like, you know? Throw a note in the wall.
Yeah, it's such a holy experience that he had there. How he was overcome with reverence and connection with the spirituality of being in Israel. Dude, you're literally making jokes about wanting to become a millionaire and having like horny thoughts and writing it in the wall. Okay, this is so stupid. Oh wow, Hassan's anti-Semitic because he thinks that like Christians crying at a wall is dumb. Whatever. Oh. The great wall of herpes. Yeah, it's so irreverent. It's everyone has so much reverence for her. They segregate in the people that visit it. Okay. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but the CDC is fucked. Like, the entire top staff of the CDC has been fired because of RFK. Basically, the director of the CDC was refusing to sign off on ascientific claims that RFK was trying to push, specifically about vaccines. And RFK basically fired her because of it. And I think she refused to like leave, and there's some kind of legal debate about whether he has the authority to fire her and replace her. But she's gone now, like literally physically gone out of the building. And I kind of wanted to watch this little post that Bernie Sanders made.
Thanks very much for joining me. Dangerously, President Trump and Health and Human Services Secretary Robert Kennedy are wreaking havoc on our already broken and dysfunctional healthcare system. I love the slogan. It's a great slogan. Make America healthy again. Fantastic. Unfortunately, the Trump administration is doing just the opposite. You don't make America healthy by throwing 15 million people off the healthcare they have, which is what Trump's big, beautiful bill does. You don't make America healthy by, as a result of these Medicaid cuts, shutting down or creating a decline in services for hundreds of nursing homes, community health centers, and hospitals throughout the country. But it gets even worse than that. Secretary Kennedy has just fired the head of the CDC, Dr. Susan Monterez, who has been on the job for just a few weeks. Her crime? Well, she refused to be a rubber stamp for Kennedy's anti-vaccine conspiracy theories. That is her crime. That's why she was fired. In other words, she believes what virtually the entire medical and scientific community believe, and that is that vaccines are an enormously important public health tool which protect the health and welfare of our children and all Americans. It is a bit absurd to have to say this in the year 2025, but let me say it. Vaccines are safe and effective.
And one other thing that we need to talk about when it comes to vaccines, which is crazy, but it's like the FDA recently updated the COVID booster shot guidelines and essentially said you're not eligible for the COVID booster shot unless you're in a vulnerable like class of people. So if you're like a young child, if you're elderly, if you have some kind of pre-existing condition like asthma or immunodeficiency. That's the new guidelines for getting vaccinated. You literally like need to now have a note from your doctor in order to get the updated COVID booster shot. Like, it's just an all-out assault on vaccines from RFK. Not to mention just healthcare in general from the Republican Party. But it's just so funny. Like, you hear stories of RFK accosting people while hiking and looking at a pregnant woman and be like, I hope you don't get your child vaccinated because vaccines will kill them. Like, he, what was the like small island nation where he caused a measles outbreak that ended up killing like 200 kids because he gave a speech saying don't get vaccinated there? And I was like, I'm going to reproduce that, but on a national stage in America. Like, sometimes people just are exactly what you think they are, and you put an anti-vaxxer in charge of the CDC and the health decisions of America, and you get anti-vax policies.
Let me say it again. Vaccines are safe and effective. That, of course, is not just my view. Far more importantly, it is the overwhelming consensus of the medical and scientific communities. The American Academy of Pediatrics, the largest professional association of pediatricians in our country, representing over 67,000 doctors who treat our kids every day, they called immunizations, quote, one of the greatest public health achievements, preventing tens of thousands of deaths and millions of cases of disease, end quote. That's the pediatricians. The American Medical Association, the largest professional association of physicians and medical students in our country, representing over 270,000 doctors, along with 79 leading medical societies, recently said that vaccines for flu, RSV, and COVID-19 are, quote, the best tools to protect the public against these illnesses and their potentially serious complications, end quote. The World Health Organization, an agency comprised of some of the most prominent medical experts around the globe, representing 194 countries, found that over the past 50 years, vaccines have saved 154 million lives and reduced the infant mortality rate by 40%. Unfortunately, Mr. Kennedy, the head of U.S.
It's so surreal that you have a senator giving like pro-vaccine arguments in the face of what is RFK's position? I don't even know, but it like controlling the FDA and the CDC and just adamantly anti-vaccine, like telling like you can't even trust the fucking CDC anymore because of this insane administration. You need Bernie. You need to rely on Bernie Sanders to give you pro-vaccine arguments in a effort, like a futile attempt to push back against the complete dismantling of one of the like most reliable and trusted institutions of our country, the CDC.
Government public health agencies doesn't agree with the leading doctors and scientists in our country and around the world. He believes that, quote, autism does come from vaccines, end quote, despite more than a dozen rigorous scientific studies involving hundreds of thousands of children that have found no, quote, no causal association, end quote, to link vaccines to autism. He has called the COVID-19 vaccine, quote, the deadliest vaccines ever made, end quote, despite findings from the WHO that these vaccines saved 20 million lives throughout the world during the pandemic. He has claimed that the polio vaccines killed more people than polio ever did, despite the fact that the scientific community has found that the polio vaccine have saved 1.5 million lives and prevented over 20 million people from becoming paralyzed since 1988. He has absurdly claimed that, quote, there is no vaccine that is safe and effective, end quote. That is the head of the Health and Human Services Agency. So, what does this mean?
It's so bad. Like, we're so fucked, man. Economically, America's fucked, and now, like, in terms of our health and our long-term readiness for pandemics, we're fucked.
For the health of the American people. Short term, it will mean, unless we change this situation, that for millions of Americans, it will be harder to get life-saving vaccines. Already, the Trump administration has effectively taken away COVID vaccines from healthy adults and kids unless they fight their way through our broken healthcare system. It will also mean higher out-of-pocket costs if people are able to get the vaccine at all. And the long-term implications are even more dangerous. As the former chairman of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, I will never forget holding a hearing 2 years ago with the major government officials responsible for protecting us from a new pandemic, including the head of the CDC. Without exception, every one of these agency heads said that while they could not predict the exact date, there will be a future pandemic, and we must be much better prepared for it than we are today. Unfortunately, despite that reality, Secretary Kennedy's actions are making a dangerous situation even worse by defunding the research.
FEMA is another example of this, where like national disasters are getting worse and worse, and FEMA was getting better about fighting national disasters, and Trump rolled back all of it to the point where, like, now in order to spend over $100,000, you need Kirsty Noem to personally sign off on releasing these FEMA funds, which caused deaths when there was the flooding in Texas. Like, it's decisions like this that are literally killing people. So yeah, I might do a video where just listing all of the things that the Trump administration is actually trying to, like, listing all of the areas where the Trump administration is actually affecting people's lives. But I think, like, destroying the CDC is so fucked up. The vaccine thing is, like, the FDA changing the approvals on vaccines is super important. FEMA is super important. Obviously, cutting people off of health insurance is crazy. The literal concentration camps that Trump has built. Like, yeah, a lot of, like, you can say that both parties are the same. People's lives don't materially change one way or the other, whichever party gets into office. But you cannot say that when it comes to this presidency and this Republican Party that has been insistent on destroying every single type of social institution that has been there to help people. Because at the end of the day, they serve people like Elon Musk, they serve people like Mark Zuckerberg, all of these oligarchs that, you know, they profit off of your suffering. That's just the sad reality of capitalism. Oligarchs profit off of the suffering of the population, obviously up to a point, but then they also have to balance serving these oligarchs with serving these white supremacists that have infested the Republican Party and infested Donald Trump's cabinet.
That could help us prepare for the next pandemic. In August, he canceled nearly $500 million in research for the kinds of vaccines that helped us stop the COVID pandemic. Secretary Kennedy is endangering the health of the American people, now and into the future. Secretary Kennedy must resign. In his place, President Trump must listen to our doctors and scientists and nominate a Secretary of Health and Human Services and a CDC director who will protect the health and well-being of the American people, not implement dangerous conspiracy theories. Thanks very much.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna call it soon, but Oh, Jesus Christ. While I run away from this guy. Let's search stuff. I wanted to check in with my old favorite podcast. I'll just run. She's a quasi-incarnation of the Holy Spirit. Okay, that looks hilarious. Oh, never mind. It's Protestant objections to Mary.
Obvious.
Lame. Finding God in suffering. Oh, he goes on a date with his wife, who he's fantasized about leaving. All right, let's see. Live. I guess he doesn't actually stream his podcast live. Or does he? Kind of hard to go through all these clips. Terminal cancer brought me to God. Kind of boring. Podcasts.
How do we know that Mary's our mother? What does that mean?
Tyranny is here. The church must fight.
If the church in America does not stand against these horrors with boldness and unity, it's game over. All this kind of stuff which you think of when you think of totalitarian regimes, to see it on...
Oh, so they're actually going to be fighting back against Donald Trump. Okay, all right. I'm in. I'm into this one. Let's check it out. Am I in Limgrave? Is this where Limgrave is? I think so. I don't know. I went to Stormvale Castle and got triggered when a bunch of birds were throwing exploding barrels at me. And so and then I returned to the spawn. So I'm just kind of like working my way back through a different route.
Any level in America was astonishing. If the church had been the church during the rise of Hitler, the Nazis could not have abrogated those freedoms and, human rights. And nobody dreamt that it could happen. That's the point. What if we have an opportunity?
Didn't the Nazis get the endorsement of the Pope at the time? Nazi church relations. The German churches in the Nazi state. In both the German churches, there were 20 million members of the Catholic Church and 40 million Protestant churches, or members of the Protestant churches. How did Christians and their churches in Germany respond? The attitudes of German Catholics and Protestants during the Nazi era were shaped. They had backlash against the Weimar Republic, anti-communism, nationalism. Okay. These were some of the reasons why most Christians in Germany welcomed the rise of Nazism in 1933. They were also persuaded by the statement on positive Christianity in point 24 of the 1920 Nazi Party platform, which read, "We demand freedom for all religious denominations in the state, provided they do not threaten its existence nor offend the moral feelings of the German race. The party, as such, stands for positive Christianity, but does not commit itself to any particular denomination." Wow, very brave. It combats the Jewish materialist spirit within and without us, and is convinced that our nation can achieve permanent health only from within on the basis of the principle of common interest before self-interest. Protestant churches in Nazi Germany. Most of Germany's 40 million Protestant members were members of this church, although there were many so-called free Protestant churches. Historically, the German evangelical church viewed itself as one of the pillars of the German culture and society, with theologically grounded tradition of loyalty to the state. And that's great for fighting against Nazi ideology. The German Christians embraced many of the nationalistic and racial aspects of Nazi ideology. So you're saying there was a strong Protestant community in Nazi Germany, and there was a strong Catholic community in Nazi Germany, and both of them readily gave in to Nazi propaganda and then joined the Nazis. Okay, great. But what was it? If there was a strong church, the Nazis wouldn't have formed?
If the church in America does not stand against these horrors with boldness and unity, it's game over. All this kind of stuff which you think of when you think of totalitarian.
I don't know whether he's on the side of the cops or the side of the... By the way, these look like AI videos. Or on the side of the black woman wearing a sweater, seemingly like menace. Look at these videos.
In unity, it's game over. All this kind of stuff which you think of when you...
Like, is this real? This isn't real, right? This is AI. What is this? Yeah, this is AI. Look at the hands here. These fingers are fucked up. This hand's not even holding on to the sign. That kind of looks real. I don't know. What do you guys think? Here, let me go full screen. Yeah. Is this AI? It's fake. Yeah. Oh my god, I'm so bad at this. There we go. Yeah, I think it's fake.
You think of totalitarian regimes. To see it on any level in America was astonishing. If
they show the Trump bullet projection?
If the church had been the church during the rise of Hitler, the Nazis could not have abrogated those freedoms and, human rights. And nobody dreamt that it could happen. That's the point. What if
they're even using AI for the subtitles?
We have an opportunity now to take back ground that we thought we had lost forever.
If this is to happen, it's going to require individuals to repent of their insanity.
For sure.
To get their...
Like, I love how he's getting like more and more conspiracy coded with it, right? I like leaning in. Like, I've been watching this guy for a few years, just on and off every like 7 months or so. I'll tune in and see what kind of bullshit he's up to. Surprisingly, he hasn't said anything about Israel and Palestine, and yet went to Ukraine to interview Ukrainians and like fundraise for the Catholics in Ukraine. So very anti-Russia, but not really anti-Israel or anti-Palestine. He's been completely silent on it, which is really interesting to me. But it has also been kind of a good case study of how someone gets more and more involved inside of the right-wing media ecosystem. Like, he's talked to Ben Shapiro, he's talked to Dennis Prager, and now he's like getting into this weird conspiracy stuff. Kind of reminding me of like the Brett Weinstein style of politicking.
Passions subordinated to reason.
If you can go to a church where they pretend that it doesn't matter how you vote, I thought, look, what dead, satanic pseudo-gospel are you caring about if you turn your back on them? This is an issue that God Almighty has called you to stand for them out of your faith.
What battles do you see emerging on the right that Christians ought not to be quiet about just because their team are trumpeting them?
Well, I guess...
Thank you so much for watching Pints with Aquinas.
Michael Knowles. I love that cliffhanger. This guy's so funny. He's awesome.
Thank you so much for watching Pints with Aquinas. Before we get into the interview, I'd like to ask you to please consider subscribing. Over 58% of people who watch this show regularly are still not subscribed.
But I thought, of course,
I'm going to subscribe.
They're not paying me to speak. They're paying me to travel.
100%.
Because the speaking, that's the easy part for me. But the schlepping, the traveling, it can be a big deal. But I'm very happy to be here, genuinely.
Did you used to travel a lot more than you do now?
No, I travel more than I ever have, probably.
Kids are older, have more free time in that sense?
No, it's none of that. We just have our daughter and my wife manage things. But it's just, okay. I guess I've become more in demand over the years. I don't know, I suppose.
Yeah. Now, you have something called Socrates in the City. Is this your project?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We
started
it shockingly 25 years ago. That doesn't make any sense.
I saw the logo.
Chronologically, I have to admit, yes, this is correct. So it was 2000 when we began it. And it was something that, it's just so funny because our daughter had just been born, and my wife Suzanne and I had just moved back to Manhattan. She'd lived there. We met in a church in Manhattan. But we just moved back to Manhattan, and this friend of mine said, would you like to start a Bible study for seekers? That's kind of like the trendy term. Everybody's a seeker, which is, of course, not true. But I thought, of course, be delighted. I'm in Manhattan now. Let's do it, whatever. So we started getting these conversations. What's it going to be like? And da-da-da-da. And then one day, I was having a conversation with a dear friend, who's still a very dear friend, Oz Guinness, who's been a big influence on my life, a real Christian intellectual, just a glorious human being. In the conversation, he said, well, why don't you do something like a forum where people ask the big questions and, to really open it up? And I thought, yeah, that would be better. Because Bible study has this kind of religious, it can be off-putting. It's like when C.S. Lewis talks about, the stained glass. People can be put off, and you want to invite them in. How do you invite them in? And so we were thinking. And then that's when we came up with the thought. Because I'm Greek, of course, I'm predisposed toward Socrates. And I thought, Socrates in the city, yeah, that's, I think Sex in the City was, and I thought, to be really countercultural, Socrates in the City. Let's talk about.
I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so long ago, it's not really relevant, but I just remember, 25 plus years ago. Yeah. And that the idea is that Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. And that really sums up, I think, the Christian life, right? I want to care about what's important, what's good and true and beautiful. Can we talk about those things? Can we think about those things? To think that Socrates dared, centuries before Jesus, to ask the big questions, seemingly, I guess, innately, since he was created in God's image, having a sense that it's worthwhile, that there are good answers, that the questioning of one's life has value. And I thought, what a beautiful way in, because, of course, those of us who are Christians think if people dare to genuinely ask the big questions, it will lead them to the Lord of life. There's no way, if you're honest about the big questions. We have this sort of little secret that we know that there are answers and that it is not meaningless. So if you can engage people. So we said, let's do Socrates in the City. Initially, we wanted to do it as a conversation series where I would interview people. But then, I don't know, something happened early on and it was too difficult. And so we said, we'll just do lectures for a while. So I'll do goofy, semi-comedic introductions, and then people will talk, and then the audience can ask questions. But then we shifted back quite a few years ago. So let's do the interview thing, because I always felt that was part of God's calling on my life, is to have conversations like my friend and hero Dick Cavett did for so long. Long, interesting conversations with a variety of people. Of course, these are much more intentional because we ask the big questions. But anyway, that's the long answer to you bringing up Socrates in the City. The short answer, I have short answers if you prefer.
No, that's good. We probably have a similar style or a similar kind of affection for conversation because, Pints with Aquinas, the idea there is, if you could sit down with Aquinas over a beer. So the idea was to bring the angelic doctor down to the riffraff and converse about the things that interest us. And so getting to talk to people, with diverse backgrounds and interests about the big questions. I've always loved that.
It's the life. Obviously, as I'm sitting here, I'm well aware that this is everything I was just describing is very close to your heart, and you're doing something extremely similar. So, but that started 25 years ago. And
is it like a monthly thing you do in New York?
It's not a time thing. Okay. There were periods where it was roughly monthly or whatever. It's all about funding, because it's expensive to put on a big event. We've now started to do something called Socrates in the Studio, which is more like this, without a big audience and at a big event, so we can do more content that way. But it has huge YouTube following for what it's been over time. It's really caught on, and so I'm excited about it, because what's more wonderful than the idea that people in the privacy of their own home could be exploring the big questions. A lot of times I think as Christians, there's pressure put on us that, you've got to have a conversation with someone. But when you're doing it with another person, what enters the equation is they want to save face or they want to argue against you. But if you just let people think about things on their own, if they're watching, I know that there are people just watching Socrates in the City because I interviewed someone that would be interesting to them, and they kind of want to see what's that about. Somebody who, in many cases, is not a Christian or whatever. And so it kind of lures people into actually thinking.
Yeah, I like that.
Which is...
I like what you say about the defensiveness, because it's always shocking to me, and I'm sure it's perhaps surprising to you when people come up and say, they'll say to me, the podcast really brought me to the faith. And I'm shocked by that, because I don't think I've ever been changed by a video. Maybe I'm just old. But I think that's right. If people can sit down and watch without their defenses up, because that certainly happens to me if I get into an adversarial conflict. Well, now I got to somehow save face because I'm an idiot and I'm concerned about those things.
No, so that's and the same thing is true of books. I often feel on my radio program, I'm trying to lure people to buy a book because whoever I'm speaking with, my guest, you can't really get into everything. But if that person will say, well, that's interesting, then in their own quiet, reading a book, they can think about that. So whether it's a book or a video, the point is that people have the freedom to have certain thoughts that they would not if they're in some confrontational conversation with a believer,
Now, I suppose most of your interviews revolve around the faith in some way. I saw that you had RFK Jr. on at some point. So do you just delve into the political from time to time?
Actually, that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, because I can say we never.
He talked with RFK Jr.? That's something that's a funny coincidence. Okay, I am middle of this camp somehow.
Do political on Socrates in the City. Now, in my radio program and in other places, I will get into the political. But Socrates in the City is meant to be about the big questions, the eternal questions, which, of course, can lean into politics. But the reason I do so many guests with Socrates in the City that every now and again you can go slightly off brand without wrecking the whole brand. And so RFK Jr., there are a number of figures like this that, whether political or apolitical, you just know that it will be an interesting conversation. In the case of his coming on, because he was running for president, it was ostensibly political, but I tried to frame it in my introduction and in the subsequent conversation as something that is apart from politics. We're talking about the big questions, and to some extent, not every Socrates conversation has to do with faith either. Again, I keep thinking that if you're simply talking about the big questions or things of importance, it can't help but lean toward truth and faith, even if it's not explicit. So, but with him, I thought, well, I probably wouldn't get him if he weren't running for president. So let's have the conversation. But in the introduction, I framed it quite deliberately and saying, look, we're talking about we're going to talk about the big questions. Now, whether I was able to get him to follow along is another thing. But it was.
Man, if he ever writes a book one day, I'd want to read that book.
Actually, he has.
Has he talked about the amount, how many arrows he's taken over the last year?
No, that he has not.
If he ever writes a book, I want to read it. He's written multiple books. Okay, well, like maybe if he writes another one, I'll read it.
Courage.
Well,
what do you think?
No, listen. Not only is the answer to that yes, let's underscore this by considering the fact that he's married to someone who, for the longest time, starred on Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David, who is viciously leftist. I mean, when I say viciously leftist, I mean he's not, sort of leftist. I mean, he's the kind of person that if you're going to think if you're going to go like RFK Jr. and go work for Trump, that's a deal breaker in terms of friendship, whatever. And so when people put friendships on the line the way RFK Jr. did,
she's an actress. Like she wasn't Larry's wife in real life. And there's a lot of people in Hollywood that are weird. Like, yeah, RFK Jr. was claiming to be a leftist right up until he decided to endorse Donald Trump. Remember, he literally was trying to get money from Kamala Harris's campaign for like a position from her campaign to drop out and endorse her. But she didn't respond to any of his inquiries. And so he dropped out and endorsed Donald Trump because Donald Trump offered him a position running the CDC.
Definition of courage, because no one, I put myself at the front of the list, wants to lose a friend. It's heartbreaking. It's very tough if you feel an obligation to do something and you know that there are people that are not going to be able to deal with that. They're going to think of me as the enemy or something. So RFK Jr.'s courage, and really when you think about it too, the practicality, the pragmatism of saying, I have certain things I want to do. If this president is going to allow me to do that, that's a big deal. And how can I not take that deal?
Well, it just goes to show that what the change he believed he could make, it was worth coming under the Trump banner and
I mean, absolutely. And of course, it has to say something about Trump that you're willing to pull somebody in who you differ with on many things, but you believe somehow this guy, RFK Jr., he cares about America, he cares about truth, he cares about kids. Let's see what he can do. So that's a wonderful thing. But just to get back to the Socrates thing, so I think that we're very purposely apolitical and not just political, but it's not about current events. It's about the big questions with the idea that you can watch something.
It's actually kind of triggering me how they're not saying what the big questions are. They're just saying, I love talking about the big questions.
10 or 15 years after we've done it, and it's as relevant. One of my favorite conversations ever is with Dame Alice von Hildebrandt. Did you ever meet her?
Alice, I never met her, no.
She was a dear friend, and just, you talk about a hero of the Catholic faith. I mean, she was such a joy to talk to. And that conversation, I know, has changed people's lives. They told me this, and it's, I guess it's 10 or 11 years ago that we did that. So, to talk about the big questions, sometimes, again, explicitly theological, and in many cases not. So, yeah.
Okay, what's Manhattan like these days? My wife and I would go every year for the last 8 years. Maybe the last 3 years we haven't gone. And it just seemed to us, and just subjectively, to get increasingly worse and to feel more dangerous.
Everybody, listen, as somebody who lives there, I think that's mostly nonsense. It just goes to show you how the news affects us. I mean, I live in New York, my family live in New York. Has it gotten worse? Yes. But it's so incremental that to talk about. I mean, I knew New York well in the 70s when I was a kid. That was bad. The 80s was bad. It is nothing like it was back then. And so, but this is all the news. You take it in, you hear about this, you hear about that, and it's no, it isn't the city that it was 15 years ago. But
you love living
I cannot imagine that I'm. Yeah, I mean, just when people say that, I think, well, what are you seeing? I mean,
I'm seeing a lot of fellas dressed up like women, and it felt increasingly.
I'm not.
You have
no.
Are you going to drag shows,
coffee shops, and you walk around, there's always tranny flags everywhere, and
well, it depends where you walk around. Yeah. Because I do not see that.
That's wild.
Yeah, he's going to drag shows in New York and then being like, why are there so many men dressed up as women in New York?
Well, I mean, you have to...
I'd love to go back. I remember being in New York and thinking, I have finally found a city that can keep up with me. And then I would go back home to wherever I was, and it felt like going from a podcast in double speed back to single speed. You're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful...
No, listen, I have a great affection for New York. I was born there, and we've raised our daughter there, and I met my wife there, and I really have great love for New York. If the Lord calls us someplace else, we were really kept there in part because both Suzanne and I love our families. Family is so important, and her family's in New Jersey, about an hour and 15 minutes away. My family's in Connecticut, about an hour and 15 minutes away. So we were able to see our families constantly. And her parents have passed away, and my dad has passed away, so things have changed. But
this guy would see a picture of Jesus and be like, "Why is there a dude dressed in a long dress with long hair? Seems a little too liberal and leftist to me."
that was a big part of it. This is where we are. This is where people are. This is our world and our church family and our friends. Yeah.
You wrote a book. Forgive me, I'm forgetting the name of the title. Letters to a Christian Church, or what? Was
Letters to the American Church.
American Church.
Sorry, Letter to the American Church.
And it sounds like at least part of what you were concerned about in that book was the silence on part of the church, not standing up to the insane ideologies that are being pushed on us.
Yeah.
Love you to talk about that, but also it feels like there's been a sea change.
Oh, of course, there has been a sea change. Praise God.
Yeah.
There's been a sea
Have you
change.
noticed that even in New York, that people have the freedom now to be like, yeah, that was kind of a fever dream?
But yeah, I wonder what the reactions that they have to the new pope are.
It's good to wake up from that.
Listen, I don't want to get too current events-y or political, but it was the reason I wrote that book in a nutshell.
The other thing that pisses me off about conservative Christians like this is they're a political group in America. They're pushing politics onto America. They're interviewing politicians. They have politicians like quoting them and repeating what they say, and yet they have such an aversion to politics. Like the explicitly religious people do, especially guys like that have online followings and stuff, because they just feel like if they say they're above politics, then they don't have to actually deal with any of the ramifications of that. They can say, well, Donald Trump's doing bad stuff, but I'm apolitical. I don't support either of these guys. I just like talking about the big issues. It gives them a degree of separation. And so when their politics are being achieved by candidates that they support, but it's also leading to negative ramifications for quality of life for everyday Americans, they have that plausible deniability.
And I can say bluntly that I know the Lord has led me in my career, and that's all I've cared about, right? So when I wrote the book on Dietrich Bonhoeffer, which came out in 2010, that was a monster moment in my life, and I wrote it because my mother grew up in Nazi Germany. My father grew up in Greece. My mother grew up in Germany. They both left in the 50s, met in an English class in New York City. I tell this whole story in my book, Fish Out of Water. When I'm sitting here with you, I want to say water.
Water.
But Fish Out of Water, and I tell that story. And so the story of my life growing up, both my parents were constantly talking about growing up during World War II.
Wow.
And so my father went through hell in Greece. The communists tried to take over after the war. Just went through hell. My father lived it. My mother grew up in Nazi Germany, lost her father in the war. He was killed. She was 10 years old. The whole thing, they were not on board with Hitler. I knew that most German, my brothers, they were not on board with this. But what choice do you have? My goodness, it's like, so the Bonhoeffer book, really, without getting further into it, when I wrote that book, I never really have much of an agenda. I just thought, this is an amazing hero of the faith. It's like Dietrich von Hildebrand. I mentioned Alice von Hildebrand, her late husband. Dietrich. These are heroes of the faith in the context of totalitarian regimes. And so I just want to tell the story of Bonhoeffer because I knew about it because my mother grew up in Nazi Germany, and I thought Bonhoeffer was a voice not just for the Jews, but for those German Christians who were not on board with the Nazis. So I wrote the book. Okay. So in the course of writing the book, I never thought it would be such a big deal. I mean, that's an understatement. I never dreamt that it would be anything like a big deal, but it ended up, selling 1 million copies, translated into 20 languages. No one was more surprised than I. That's not some false humility. That was really true. I just wanted to finish writing it and move on. But it struck a nerve for many reasons. But I think the principal reason is that Bonhoeffer, in a way, had been hijacked by the theological liberals. They had, for 50 years, presented him as some kind of agnostic humanist. And so I think a lot of people who loved Bonhoeffer were confused by this. So my book clarified this in a way for the first time, and I didn't even do it intentionally. I just thought, I'm just going to tell the story of Bonhoeffer. And in the course of actually telling the story in his own letters and diaries, you just think, well, that's not who he was. He was a profound Christian till the end of his life. Anyway, so it was kind of a reclamation. It ended up being, So the book was very, very popular. But I say all this because the takeaway, as I was writing the book, I thought, this story that I'm writing, which happened principally in the 30s in Germany, it feels familiar. Like it feels like it could happen in America. And what's at the center of the story? The center of the story is the failure of the church, mostly the Lutheran church, but the church in general, to see what was happening and to stand boldly, courageously against it in time to stop it. And the bigger point is they could have stopped it. In other words, they had the Lutheran church, particularly in Germany, they had the cultural power. If they had stood en masse in the beginning, they had the ability. But there was a lot of dithering and a lot of those kind of religious excuses like, well, we don't do politics. It's not, we just want to preach the gospel. We just want to have a nice church service. And it was that failure to discern that, no, now we must stand against this evil. Bonhoeffer was trying to wake up the church to get them to do that. Of course, he, like most of the prophets, he failed. The church, they did what they did. And before you knew it, the Nazis had taken over. And you see that. So I say all that because in recent years, I felt something dramatically similar is happening in America. We don't have to get into the litany of madnesses.
You're saying
but
that you're not.
There were many things
that
lines were crossed that I never thought in my lifetime they would be crossed. Any of them. Whether you believe an election might have been stolen, you think that'll never happen in America. That happens in third world countries. You wouldn't believe that cultural elites would force people to go along with certain narratives, and if you dissent, that you would be punished, and all this kind of stuff, which you think of when you think of totalitarian regimes. To see it on any level in America.
Dude, the fact that he's going to apply all of this to the Democrats is wild to me. Saying that the Democrats are a totalitarian regime, while Trump is calling himself a dictator and opening concentration camps.
Was astonishing for anybody paying attention. And I thought, this is exactly why God called me to write the Bonhoeffer book, because it happened very similarly in Germany. Nobody dreamt that it could happen. That's the point. That's the why it happens, because the people are thinking, we live in Germany. This is the country of Schiller and Bach and Goethe, and we're the most civilized country in the world. What can happen here? And so you let your guard down, and then before you know it, it's happened. And so Letter to the American Church was me trying to make the case to American Christians, have we in fact been guilty of what the German church was guilty of? Have we said, oh, I don't want any trouble. We don't do politics. We're just going to do our, And I thought, theologically, that's a mistake. It's not just practically a mistake. It's a mistake theologically in the sense that God calls us to stand against evil, just as he calls us to stand against slavery, right? You don't say, well, that's political. That's on the ballot this year. It's 1860 and slavery's on the ballot in our church. We're not going to touch that, because we don't get into politics.
So why are you saying that your podcast is apolitical?
Who's kidding whom? This is about human beings. This is a moral issue, and I have a moral obligation. And in a sense, those who are opposed to the Christian view can use the term political as a cudgel and say, don't, but you realize, well, we're not being political. We're speaking against slavery. We have a mandate from the scripture, from our faith, to speak against evil. And so I think that it's a very normal thing, particularly for Americans and Westerners, to kind of go along thinking, well, I don't want to be the one to cause any trouble. And I thought, if the church in America does not stand against these horrors with boldness and unity, it's game over, because Bonhoeffer always said that the church is the conscience of the state. In other words, if the church fails to be the church, it all goes south. Let's not kid ourselves like we can have. I'm writing a book now, The American Revolution, and I wrote a book called If You Can Keep It, where I talk about the absolute centrality of faith and virtue to this American experiment in self-government. So anybody who thinks that we can have self-government and liberty and freedom and all this great stuff without people of faith, there's no way you can have one without the other. Now, of course, the other side of it is you can't force faith, you can't mandate faith, you can't legislate faith and virtue, so it has to come up naturally. And so there's this profound connection. And so if the church hadn't been the church, if you hadn't had sufficient people of virtue and faith in 1776, America could never have come into being, period. There's just no possibility of that. And similarly, if the church had been the church during the rise of Hitler, the Nazis could not have abrogated those freedoms and human rights. And similarly now.
So, if history happens that he agrees with, then that means the church was strong. But if history happens that he disagrees with, that means the church was weak. I love this interpretation of history. Jesus, just fucking die already. Yeah, that's hilarious. Without a good church, then we never would have had an American Revolution. And if we did have a good church in Nazi Germany, then the Nazis never would have risen to power. When we just looked up, overlooking the fact that the revolution was secular in America and it was actually heavily influenced and supported by churches in Germany. There was a Christian influence to Nazism. It was in the Nazi charter that they wanted it to be a Christian nation.
Now, in the last, let's say, 5 years, if the church is the church, you get a radically different outcome than if the church says, oh, we don't want any trouble, we're just going to go along with things. You lose liberty, to sum it up. You lose it. It's not guaranteed that you can keep it forever. And so that's why the book's called If You Can Keep It, the one that I'm just referencing, because Benjamin Franklin was asked, leaving the Constitutional Convention, what kind of a government have you given us, Dr. Franklin, a monarchy or a republic? It's a famous line. And he says, a republic, madam, if you can keep it. In other words, it requires keeping. And I think Franklin understood, and all the founders understood, that at the heart of it all is people of faith, people of virtue. You cannot have freedom without that. And so Letter to the American Church was really me trying to speak to the church now and say, this is it, folks. This is it. It's not going to be it in 20 years. This is it. If we lose now, we don't even get to fight in 20 years. It's over. And that I knew was not overstating the case. I always say, I wish I were wrong. I so wish that I could be persuaded that it's just my emotions have carried me away, but not at all. I think that was the case, and I think that the recent election is just one of those things. It's not. In other words, it doesn't solve everything, but it makes it possible to kind of keep going and to bring faith into the center of public life.
It certainly seems to have been a referendum on the LGBT stuff, the DEI stuff, the transing the kids stuff, such that I wonder if whoever the new Democratic frontrunner will end up being will maybe take their foot entirely off the gas.
Yeah. Oh,
and,
sure.
And so for that reason,
comparing the church in the rise of Nazi Germany to what's happening now in America, but saying that the Democrats are the Nazis is delusional. Like, these guys don't exist in the same reality as other people.
I think if someone was to pick up your book today, do you think that, as we said, the sea change has occurred? Do you think people would be like, "Oh, this isn't relevant anymore"?
No, because there are many Christians. I'm speaking specific. Listen, all the books I've written, I wrote for everyone. Every book I write is for everybody, except Letter to the American Church and the sequel, Religionless Christianity. Both are directed specifically to Christians, only to the church. And there are many church leaders, Christian leaders, and Christians who have not themselves gotten this memo. In other words, enough have gotten it that we see the sea change that you're talking about, like we see it. But there are tons of Christians who don't understand what has happened or that they have a role. Because, look, when we say a sea change has happened, it's kind of like saying, like, we won that battle. Mm-hmm. We're still in a war. Yeah. There are many other battles ahead. There are battles today and tomorrow and next month and next year.
What battles do you see emerging on the right that Christians ought not to be quiet about just because their team are trumpeting them?
Well, I guess I wouldn't frame it that way. Here's what I see. I see that we have been given an absolutely outrageous, unmerited gift from the Lord that we get to now breathe and not just have freedom, but potentially increase freedom, right? In other words, I keep saying, imagine a world. I'm going to be referencing all my books. I've written too many books. Any subject that interests me, ultimately, I've written a book on it. I wrote a book called "Is Atheism Dead?" And we can talk about that later because some of it is so fascinating what has come up in the world of science. It's shocking, and that's why I put it in my book. Shocking evidence for God from science. I mean, truly shocking. Now, I say this because I think to myself, I grew up in a world where the basic cultural undergirding is this idea that science is at odds with faith. People of faith are they're in a little pocket, but they're not in the real world. Science clearly makes the case that you don't need God, blah, 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 right? Now, we know that's not true, but that's been the culture. That's the zeitgeist that we've been swimming in this water. We've been drinking, breathing this oxygen. It's everywhere. Cosmos, that came out in 1980 when I was a kid, Carl Sagan took it. It's all there, and it's pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and it's this narrative that's been pushed. My whole lifetime, it is everywhere. And I think to myself, imagine if we have an opportunity now, and I think we do, if the church will be the church, to flip this narrative. In other words, if science, as I say in my book, Is Atheism Dead, is pointing dramatically to the existence of God, not, we have some evidence. No, it is open and shut. It's like the evidence is kind of like, do we have evidence that the earth is not flat? Oh, you're kidding, right? Yes, it's been decided. It's like overwhelmingly clear the earth is not flat. The evidence for God from science has become as clear, as overwhelming, but no one knows it. And that's why I wrote the book. I thought, when I found all this stuff from various authors, I thought, this is crazy. And so I think to myself, what if we have an opportunity now, given this sea change to which you're referring,
cleared it,
to take back ground that we thought we had lost forever, to repeal the sexual revolution. In other words, and I know, a lot of people listening to this.
Repeal the sexual revolution. So what? He just wants to get rid of birth control? Like, yeah, at the end of the day, you can talk high and mighty about how you're above politics and it's actually just truths, but you're just in favor of, like, fascist Republican, like a Christo-fascist ideology, which is exactly what the Nazis did in the first place. You just want to, repeal the sexual revolution? What does that mean? You want to get rid of birth control for women? You want to get rid of no-fault divorce so women can't divorce their husbands if they're abused or beaten or any way. You want to get rid of, like, gay people and say that trans people can't exist in public, or they should just be, like, completely ostracized and you should be allowed to discriminate against them. Bring back lynchings. Like, come on, what do we got?
No, that God created marriage. He created sex to be inside marriage. It's a beautiful picture of the coming together of male and female in his image to create life and family. And we all know this is true. This is not some parochial Catholic Christian. This is true. Imagine
he's apolitical.
that idea over 50 or 60 years has been wiped away. What would it be like to bring? Would it be possible? Maybe. Mm-hmm. It would have to be by the grace of God, we know, but to go back so that most people, never everyone, but that most people would begin to know again, that's true. I should get married. I should find a spouse, and we should have a family. That's at the heart of everything.
And it's going to have to be personal responsibility, not legislative, obviously. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says The alternative is clear. Either man governs his passions and so finds peace, or he allows himself to be dominated by them and becomes unhappy. So if this is to happen, it's going to require individuals to repent of their insanity,
for sure,
to get their passions subordinated to reason.
Well, look, there's no doubt about that. But the culture has a lot to say about what people think possible, right?
Yeah.
In other words, if you're growing up, I mean, it happened to me. I was, in college, and I didn't know anyone who thought sex outside of marriage was wrong.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a little bit wrong.
That's funny.
But then I thought,
I'm the same.
I'm the only one.
I'm slightly younger than you, but same thing. Any one of my friends would never have thought that there was anything wrong with sex outside of marriage.
Right. And so the thing is, those things
in fact,
affect us.
it was wrong if you were to claim that it was wrong.
Well, there you go.
That's
for sure,
when they became
for sure.
judgmental about me being judgmental.
So if you think about it, the culture, we used to live in a culture,
Well,
in
why were
America,
you
I'm
being
saying,
judgmental?
where everyone knew
You're
sex
just
outside
an
of marriage was
asshole?
wrong. It didn't mean that no one did it, but everybody knew it's probably wrong. I keep thinking that we have a moment now.
Right. How do I get up here and get this stuff? If anyone knows, let me know.
Really, really glorious moment, a gift from God, a gift that to say we don't deserve it is a great understatement. That we may be able to flip these narratives. There may be a moment where things got so bad that people who ordinarily would have never have awakened, see it, and go, you know what, right.
It's like waking up after a hangover and going, what the hell
that
just happened?
But I think that's what this is. That there's a passion, at least among some, to get this stuff right. To say, wait a minute, what have we been doing? And so I feel that. I talk about this in a lot of speeches. That basically, so you think, okay, let's say, anybody who thinks politics is everything is nuts, right? Now, I often say politics is very, very important, but there's a lot more to life. And so if you elect somebody, let's say, oh, Hitler was not elected. Okay, now what? Well, that's the point. Okay, so now you have an opportunity to do many right things that you wouldn't have had. So politics is actually important. Who is elected? But then the point is, you've got to do what you can do. And so we have a whole culture now where, we can even
like these guys want to simultaneously be like, oh yeah, we should get involved in politics, but also we're kind of like above it all. Like, you just can't get around it, man. You're just like everyone else. You don't have some kind of special station or position above everyone because you're arguing your politics from a viewpoint of religiosity. You're in the mud with all of us, and all you can do is try to push your case through the same avenues of power that everyone else does. Trying to ingratiate yourself with politicians, making them aware that there's a constituency out there, there's votes to be gained if they represent your interests. You're not special, bro. Did I go in here already? I might have gone in there already.
Say have conversations about things that we couldn't have had if things gone another way. So there's a kind of a freedom. And so I keep thinking, okay, so we've got to now, with joy, try to take back the ground that's been lost over the decades about what is the family, what is the real meaning of life, what is marriage? Is marriage a beautiful thing between a man and a woman for life, or is it just whatever, or is it nothing? I think we have an opportunity because of the wild breakdown.
Yeah, the boot has been taken off our neck. We have time to get up and do something.
So it was a friend of mine, I think, I don't know, some months ago, said we need to repeal the sexual revolution, and I remember thinking, what? Like, that'll never happen. And then I thought, wait a minute, what if God says, yes, I'm giving you an opportunity now to, to say what everybody has secretly been thinking, this isn't working.
Yeah.
The divorce and all this stuff, it's painful. It's created tremendous pain and dysfunction culturally everywhere. And that's just the sexual revolution. But, when I talk about my book is Atheism Dead, what if we have an opportunity to flip that narrative that, it looks like science clearly says there is a God. Now we can argue about who that is and what you're supposed to do about it, but for sure, the evidence is overwhelming. Now, if you want to be some dedicated atheist, you refuse to accept the evidence. But the point is
What does it mean to say it's overwhelming? Because I don't feel like it's overwhelming.
Well, see, this is what I'm trying to say. The reason I wrote the book and the reason I'm so passionate about it is because even people like you don't know what's in my book. And I don't mean that it's about my book. It's evidence that I discovered in all these different places. And when I finally saw it, I thought, this is insane. I need to put this in a book because I didn't really quite see it myself. No Christian that I know sees it. And if Christians don't know this, how in the world can non-Christians be persuaded? Because most Christians, we're still operating in a world which is, it's the hangover of the 60s. Like, we've all kind of decided that, okay, I'll frame it this way. Why is my book titled Is Atheism Dead? In 1966, Time Magazine puts this bleak lie in the middle of every American living room. Time Magazine cover story, Is God Dead? Now that idea, whether it's the death of God or the irrelevance of faith.
Bro, how do you have a magazine from 40 years ago downloaded into your brain as a reason for your existence? You're boxing with shadows, dude. You're citing a magazine article from 40 years ago as like your driving force.
you know, that you can trace it back to Matthew Arnold's poem in the mid-19th century. You can go back to, it started with Darwin in 1859. These ideas have been trickling down, you know, it's what I call the trickle-down theory of culture, not economics, right? They trickle down from the academy, from these, you know, ivory tower precincts through the...
So just like facts trickle down into culture.
Decades, and you see these moments. The 1920s was a classic moment of, you know, tremendous loss of faith, and you know, you see it in culture, but it doesn't really become front and center in American culture until the 60s. That, you know, Henry Luce, Yale graduate, he decides he's going to use the power of his publishing empire to put this bleak idea that probably we all know that, you know, there's no God. Okay, on America's living room tables, and so that changed the culture from that moment on.
So Time magazine had a lot more power back in the 60s than it does today.
Well, that's the understatement of, you know, the millennium, right? It has no power today. It's a joke. But the point is it had huge cultural power in the 60s. So it says what all the intellectuals, all the smart people, all the cultural elites, they're already thinking this, but we're not going to, you know, risk it with John Q. Public in Topeka. But now they're willing to risk it and they put it out there. So I say this because from the 60s, so in my lifetime, since I was born in the 60s, this has been the general idea that we all kind of know we're living in a post-religious culture. There's still some pockets of, you know, here and there, but all the smart people, all the people in the know, we all know there's probably no God, and, you know, probably life has no meaning. We evolved by accident from the primordial soup, so your life has no inherent meaning or dignity or whatever, but we have to kind of live and make the best of it, right? And so you have people like Woody Allen, rather wonderfully in many of his films, really asking these questions, not being happy about it, but sort of saying, isn't this what we're saying, and how do we live, and how do we, you know, and then you had people before that, you know, Jean-Paul Sartre and Camus saying, how do we live in a life without meaning? How do we, you know, so there are people that are kind of honest about this, but I think the bottom line is that the whole culture kind of bought this idea. And what I say in my book, Is Atheism Dead?, is since the 60s, the evidence from science, and I can go into it, but has piled up, mainly having to do with what we call the fine-tuning of everything. That science, as science has progressed, we have had the ability through science to see things that we could not have seen in previous decades and centuries, right? And so suddenly you go, whoa, we now can see that there's no way this or this or this or this could have just happened. So how do we account for this? You know, the obvious answer would be, well, it was intended as a designer. An intelligent designer did this. Now we can argue about who that designer is or the details, but we know it didn't just happen. I mean, if I flip a quarter and it comes up heads 1,000 times in a row, we know something's going on. This is not random. So this has been happening, and actually there are two.
So it sounds like you're saying that, okay, we've always had arguments for the existence of God. Aquinas' fifth way is his argument from teleology, for example. And yet it sounds like what you're saying is modern science is not actually taking issue with these philosophical claims. No. They're bolstering them.
Well, I'll say this. I wrote a piece. It was the first piece I had published in the Wall Street Journal about 10 years ago. And the title of it, a short piece, 850-word op-ed, Science Increasingly Makes the Case for God. And it dealt with what we're talking about, this fine-tuning, which I'll get to in a minute.
Really going with the fine-tuning argument. Ooh, this is way better, Shield. A little bit less holy by 8. I don't even know what that means. Let's equip that one. All right, cool.
That article went more viral than anything could go. I don't know. It made that, the article was the most popular shared article in the history of the Wall Street Journal by more than double. Like, okay, why? Because the hunger, your average human being has a hunger to know. There must be a God. I sort of think there's a God, but everybody's saying that science is at odds with God. So an article in the Wall Street Journal says
the average human being has a hunger that says there must be a God.
Increasingly makes the case for God. Astonished people, and they wanted to know more, and that's what led me to write the book. I said that there's a hunger here, right?
What the shit?
Maybe I can tell you. Well, so the book, we're making a TV series based on the book Is Atheism Dead? And I think that, you know, many more people are inclined to watch a good TV series than read a book. But the thing that I keep saying is that the evidence has become so overwhelming that I know most people won't believe it until they see it for themselves, because we have all taken in this narrative, this secular narrative, that you can't help it but think that, well, it's got to be an issue of faith. It's got to be, well, yes, but what do we mean by faith? I mean, 1 + 1 = 2. I can look at it 1,000 ways. It's true. But if you live in a world that tells you that science is somehow at odds with faith, or that they're at least very separate, you know, people will say, well, these are two different ways of seeing things, you know, like, meaning what? That one is objective and one is subjective. So I had over the years read many books, just to focus on the science here, that talk about the fine-tuned universe. Right, yeah. Okay. And it got to a point where I said, this is getting ridiculous, because you could talk about a fine-tuned universe in 1980 or 1990, but it has become now so overwhelming that anywhere you look, on the macro level, on the micro level, on the subatomic level, on the level of the vast universe, wherever you look, you see signs of design so outrageous that you have to stop and think, look, there's nothing to talk about. It's clear that God did this, or it's at least clear that it couldn't have just happened. There's no way that this could have just happened. So I think when that evidence piles up, it sounds hopelessly vague as I'm talking about it now, but when you begin reading one thing after the other, you put this evidence in front of somebody and say, okay, what do you make of this now? Like, it really is, the simplest example, which you don't need much modern science to determine it, but I'll never forget, because
you did not miss much. You did not miss much. I don't even know what this guy's talking about. Honestly, I haven't even been listening. I'll play it for a little bit more and then probably call it.
it's so simple. If you know the solar system, you know that Mars has 2 moons, and they're, one of them's 9 miles across, the other's like 14 or whatever. There's these little rocks that they call moons, and Mercury has no moons, and Saturn has, I don't know, this many. And if you know the universe, the solar system, and then you say, okay, Earth has 1 moon. Okay, I remember I did the math on this like 20 years ago. I was writing my first book. The diameter of the moon is almost exactly 1/400th the diameter of the sun. Okay, just a fact. Almost exactly 1/400th the diameter. So diameter of the sun is 400 times that of the moon.
But
the distance from the Earth to the moon is almost exactly 1/400th the distance of the Earth to the sun.
But it's not. You did the math yourself. Got it.
This means that in the sky, from the point of view of Earth only, the sun and the moon look precisely the same size. Precisely. And this is what gives us eclipses. And so when you think about this, again, if you know the sizes of other, moons around the planets and stuff, you go, what is this, coincidence? This is insane. They're exactly the same size from the point of view of Earth. Why is that? Does that seem, on any level of randomness, is this possible?
It's not the exact same. You literally just said it's almost 1/400th. It's almost 1/400th the size of the diameter. Like, dude, if it was exactly 1/400th, that would be interesting, right? But it's not. You're just like making rounding. You're making rounding estimates and then being like, isn't it weird that it's a solid number? That it's a whole number when I round to a whole number? God must have explained it this way.
But why would it be exactly the same
size?
It's not
exactly.
Close, but exactly the same size. And again, it doesn't prove anything. But if you're just honest, you'd say, well, it seems like God designed it. It seems like he designed, one is silver, one is gold. They're in the sky. They're beautiful. They're precisely the same. One is 93 million miles away, and the other one is 240,000 miles away.
Okay, so he has
but
no
to us, they look
that
exactly the same size, and we have eclipses and whatever. Now, again, that's a very simple example of what I'm talking about, but it makes you pause. It makes you say, well, that's just...
It's literally the argument of like, how do you know there's a God? Well, have you seen a tree before? Like, that's his... Oh, God, I'm being invaded? What the... Have you seen a tree before? Oh my God, fuck this, dude. That means there's evidence of God. Trees.
So odd. Another one that's not so complicated is, which is similarly uncomplicated, I should say, is the existence of Jupiter. Jupiter is a gigantic planet, but so far away that I think it's 400 million miles away. So, if you live in a nice place, you can look up, sometimes you can see a pinprick of light in the night sky and you say that's Jupiter, right? But we now know from science that if Jupiter were not there, if this giant gassy planet were not there 400 million miles away, science can now say that there could be no life on Earth. And you say, well, that's crazy. What are you talking about? Yes, we now know that Jupiter is so large, it has such gravitational pull that it pulls asteroids and meteors and everything away from Earth in its general direction. And that if it were not there, so many asteroids and meteors would hit Earth that there would just be no conceivable possibility that life could be here. And you think, well, I didn't learn that in science class, but that's not a religious fact. That's a scientific fact that we now know that we probably didn't know 40 or 50 years ago, but we now know that. So you go, well, that's interesting. So if it weren't there, we wouldn't be here. How interesting that it's there. How nice that it's there. But everywhere you look, whether in our solar system, in the universe, beyond our solar system, whether you look on the biological level, the chemical level, the atomic level, everywhere you look, you find things like this, that if something weren't precisely as it is. Another example is, if you say to a scientist, when did the Big Bang happen? Okay, 13.8 billion years ago, the whole universe arises out of nothing. Time and space are created out of nothing 13.8 billion years ago. That's a whole other conversation, which I devote a chapter to in the book. But
the Big Bang basically says that this is when the universe became into the... This is when the... Jesus, fuck. Where are my runes? This is when the universe grew into the state that we recognize it as today. It didn't say that the universe came out of nowhere. What the shit? Need to get the hell out of here. Alright.
What they'll say is that the four physical constants, the electromagnetic force, gravitational force, the weak nuclear force, the strong nuclear force, these four fundamental forces were determined, their value was determined within 1/1,000,000th of a second after the Big Bang. And if any of those four fundamental forces had been different by 0.000001, let's say, there would be no universe.
This is boring. Not really interested in hearing him proselytize. Thought it was going to be more of like political stuff. You know what? Let's just look up that one video, like 1 week with Hassan. Holy shit, this is 56 minutes long.
Got anyone you want to call out in the heavyweight division? Oh, you know it, lad. You know that Hassan Piker?
Chilling with the captains, like I don't
toes
understand.
fucking down. They are on the morally right side. Anne Frank died before she could resist.
Hezbollah is a paramilitary organization. I don't have an issue with them. Let's just say.
Now they could go tomorrow.
Did you say Anne Frank died before she could resist? I don't know if that was a fever dream.
I'm still not sure what I want this channel to be, so I'm just gonna chase subjects that catch my interest. And right now,
Regardless of the hypothetical reality where Kamala Harris would not be as bad as Donald Trump, which we have no proof for.
right now I want to talk about Hassan. I've mainly known Hassan through the clips that get passed around on social media when he says something inflammatory.
Hezbollah is a paramilitary organization.
I mainly know Hassan because I watch hate clips of him. Okay, dude. I mean, yeah, this is not going to be a well put together video. He's literally taking clips off of the H3 subreddit. You know this because it's the Hutch reaction of Hassan talking and not just Hassan talking. He didn't find it in the VOD. He just took the clip right off of Reddit. Fuck this. Well, maybe I can beat this guy.
I don't have an issue with them, let's just say.
Or dumb.
Which we have no proof for.
Or inflammatory and dumb.
I believe what the Houthis are doing in terms of stopping Israel doing a genocide to implement a blockade on the Red Sea is a good thing. 10 toes fucking down. They are on the morally right side.
And his go-to responses are that they're taken out of context, or people just don't get it, or you're a Zionist Nazi. And it doesn't line up at all with his appearances in mainstream media. He's got a much cleaner and more approachable.
First of all, I really hope this music isn't copyrighted, but it is funny because he literally is taking it out of context, because he's not watching the full videos. He's watching the clips. How is this guy faster than me and he has that big ass weapon?
Personality, so much so that he's even referred to himself as Zoomer NPR. So I decided I wanted to take a look and see what Zoomer NPR was really like. For 1 week, I would watch Hassan's stream start to finish and report back what I learned. Let's see how Zoomer NPR stacks up to regular NPR.
Dude, you don't watch regular NPR. I know for a fact that he doesn't. Oh my god, I'm gonna fucking die. Fuck.
Black South Asian prosecutor, hashtag #bots. Black South Asian prosecutor, hashtag.
I've made a terrible mistake. I really don't like this meme that Democrats just use diversity to paper over institutions without substantively changing them, especially when you compare them to Republicans. All you need to do is take a look to see that they are very different. Trying to critique by calling out something as tokenization becomes its own form of tokenization because you misunderstand the circumstances and deny the agency of the
It's not its own form of tokenization. That's not what tokenization is. You can say it's its own form of like a poor criticism.
people who choose to be a part of those systems. How far are we into this? 5 minutes. Video game me and a Minecraft. The actual stream starts. He spends about 30 minutes talking about his last basketball game.
With hydration, especially, you know?
Alright, that's fine, I guess. We're easing in. Streaming is a more casual form of content. What's first? Stable Ronaldo was told he's in a sundown town.
question, is this a sundown town?
Oh yeah, like 9 o'clock.
What is a stable Ronaldo? Shows the audience some green books he has. That's fine, but we're now 45 minutes in. Can we get to the news? We're on Twitter. Why are we on Twitter?
GOP comms director throwing a Roman. Wait, that is the GOP comms director?
He's letting us know there's Nazis on Twitter, and they're white women.
Her name is literally Mary Jane Trumper. Party Haley McAnally? Haley.
Okay, so once again, the guy's like, can you get to the politics, please? Hassan gets to the politics. Why are we on Twitter? Continue.
McAnally.
Guys, there are white women Nazis on Twitter, and they have funny names.
White ladies that did not have like any
that's
sort of
fair
interesting
that's fair
personality
political
quirks would just be
commentary.
like a regular run-of-the-mill Republican. Now they just hit the Sig Heil.
He calls out libs of TikTok for being a Nazi despite being
The
Jewish.
people that did that historically did the Holocaust. Yeah, World War II was just a meme.
Put a pin in that.
Let's move on from
Put a
all
pin
these
in
fucking
that?
free.
What, you got nothing to say about a Jewish person espousing the same kind of race and IQ bullshit that Nazis did? You have nothing to say about that. You just, your comment is going to be put a pin in that, and then you move on. Okay, well, can't wait for the pin.
Some
Pulled
weirdos.
out, I guess.
We're an hour and 15 minutes in now. Where's the news? Why is Zoomer NPR just a curated Twitter?
He's okay. He's covering like the head of transportation, right? Saying that she was a Nazi. Well, like he's covering prominent figures making posts about current events. Like that was Omar Fateh. He's the mayoral candidate for Minneapolis. He's getting attacked because he's Somali, and there's a white supremacist administration right now. Like, dude, it's just so disingenuous to be like, where's the news? Get to the news. Like, he's covering the news. He's just not doing it in a way that you like, but also you're coming into this, obviously in bad faith. So I guess what are we going to really expect? Shit.
Feet of Nazis. And we're looking at more Twitter Nazis. Who are these guys?
Just some Nazis lose to today's football match in Rivne, Ukraine.
They're Ukrainian Twitter Nazis, specifically the Azov Battalion, which leads into Hassan giving his point of view on what Ukraine should be doing for peace.
I'm an advocate for the Minsk agreements, an infinitely better proposal than what the fuck is going on currently. But there is under no circumstances a reasonable justification for Russia invading Ukraine, a sovereign power. Donbass is different than Crimea, and Crimea is an annexation that is, in my opinion, justifiable. It is a part of Russia, okay?
Finally, the news. They're talking about Texas trying to redistrict and
Finally, the news. He's literally covering like current events in Ukraine. I don't know, man. This criticism's pretty weak. Oh, he took too long to get to the news because he was covering Nazis on Twitter before he pulled up a CNN clip. Or CBS, I'm
in order
sorry.
to push Democrats out of their seats. Hassan lets the clip run without giving any meaningful commentary.
Gavin Newsom is a fake demon. He really is. He really is.
Okay, I thought this was supposed to be, this is what I learned, not I'm just going to give a recap of what Hassan did. Like, this is extremely lazy type of video creation. No actual summation, no actual recapping of what Hassan has done, or like the themes, or the outcomes. Just let me recap everything that Hassan's done.
He's a fake demon. Gavin Newsom's major problem in California is public transit and the housing market. I fucking despise him. I think he's a demon. I guess the silver lining here, in a weird, twisted way, is that means that like elections will happen.
I need to explain something. It's not a defense of the Israeli state to say that when you criticize Israel, you should be accurate. Obfuscating reality for the sake of vilifying your enemy makes it harder to actually deal with issues on the ground because you waste time disentangling fact from fiction. That is a truth that goes in both directions. And for a government that will enthusiastically pounce on any scrap of misinformation to discredit the entirety of a criticism, you need to be
No, that's not true, bro. Israel doesn't pounce on any scrap of misinformation to discount the credibility of the entire claim. They just make up reality. Thinking that that's Israel's strategy is actually kind of cute at how innocent it is. He's like, Israel acts like some kind of debate bro in high school. who gets into Discord arguments with his friends rather than Israel just being like, there is no famine. I've never heard of the term famine. Actually, do you know that 90% of Palestinian children are paid actors?
Sure, you're giving them no opportunity. Makes sense? Cool. While
Like
Hakeem
Israel
Jeffries
needs an opportunity to lie. Holy shit, that's so funny.
talks to Wolf Blitzer about needing to get more aid into Gaza, Hassan can only focus on the fact that apparently they're both funded by AIPAC.
Spokesperson Wolf Blitzer is interviewing current AIPAC funded politicians.
Orders are in priority.
Nothing to see here, man. Just
An Israeli, whose grandparents were kidnapped, one of them was murdered, is saying that they need to end the war, and his chat is calling him a Nazi. Again, this person has family that was killed by Hamas on October 7th, and they seem repulsed.
Oh, they were killed by Hamas on October 7th. Okay, well, are they saying Nazi stuff? Like, he's in the IDF, he probably did some war crimes. I think it's fair to criticize him for that. Like, you can grieve for your grandparents without doing war crimes against the ethnic group that killed your grandparents. Or against the ethnic group that is the same group, like the same ethnicity of the people that killed your grandparents.
Repulsed by him. They should be thanking him. Instead, they're self-righteously alienating the people they need to get the fighting to stop. Then he watches
Oh my god, you dumb bitch. Holy shit. Hassan's chat is responsible for not supporting the people that could get the fighting to stop. Hassan's chat is responsible for the continuation of the fighting. This is gonna be a long video.
John Oliver segment and criticizes John for not covering Gaza more.
he was noticeably absent from the conversation.
But that's all we get before he gets stunlocked by a chatter who says they were in the IDF in Gaza.
I've been to Gaza several times.
He proceeds to call him a Nazi and Israel Nazis doing a Holocaust for the next 30 minutes.
You are literally a terrorist, brother. Fucking terrorist. You are defending a Nazi state's Nazi military. You are a fucking terrorist. I'm a fucking adult. I can handle this conversation. Listen, you don't understand it. Mein family, mein Vater, mein Mutig. We do not hate the Jews. We do not hate them. I did go to Gaza.
Come on,
I didn't
dude,
shoot
this
anyone. I
is
didn't kill
content.
anyone. I've guarded. That's all.
This is just content
Yeah, I'm just a guard, man. I'm just a camp guard. Were you just following orders, dude? $0 and 0 cents for you to just like be quiet. You know about the Holocaust. Your bitch ass and your fucking family came from Russia to Israel. How is that appropriate? The fucking Palestinian has been living there for generations. Your ass came from Russia. How is this anything but Nazi fucking ideology? Jewish supremacist attitude.
Shit.
Israel is built on the principles of Zionism, okay? Which is, as I repeated, a Nazi ideology. Asking me if Israel should exist is like asking, should Nazi Germany exist?
Okay, we're finally off Israel, thank God. And we're on to Zoran Mamdani.
Thank
okay.
God.
Fox News
Why
doesn't
do you
like
ask
him,
for
and
the
he spent
news? Dude, why do you ask for the news to be covered? And then you're like, we're finally off Israel. Thank Christ. This guy's so funny. Like, he has to be what, like 20 years old, bored on summer break.
for the next
from
30
college?
minutes shitting on Dems.
With the pepperoni nips. This is the best Elizabeth Warren tweet, and it's not even Elizabeth Warren. It's Donald Trump's tweet about Elizabeth Warren. And
Now we're learning about
yeah,
Hassan's
he
Twitter
says,
beef with Drew
he
Pavlov.
tweeted, I've been to Israel 3 times.
Okay, now we're on to Trump is putting tariffs
just
on
like
India. No,
Drew
he's still
Pavlov
talking about
is
Drew.
literally about to go to jail. And
Let me
I
just-
think he got like a $1,000.
Okay, now it looks like he's talking about the news. That's nice. Anyway, he finally hits play on the video and he walks away. First comment when he comes back.
It's kind of pointing to.
It seems like India no longer lying, and my heart goes out to the Hindutva fascists. I feel like they probably thought that like Modi and Trump were literally the best friends on the planet. Like no one is a closer friend to India than Donald Trump. Oh my God, he's been cut in half. Yeah, I unsheathed my katana. Nani? I just did my special move. Yeah, I cut him in half. Your anti-Semitic sword. Yeah.
But then he uses Twitter in order to explain the tariffs.
We're the ones paying those.
That's not foreshadowing. That's a callback because he had the sword from the anime Bleach, and Ethan Klein said it's anti-Semitic to have that.
Taxes, you dumb fuck. Yeah, you go to buy a bed on Amazon that was made in Vietnam. The bed is now sailor could buy ahead against the tariff increase, and can't do that into perpetuity. Tariffs make sense if you do this strategically.
Okay, another piece of critical news. Trump fired the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because they reported honestly on his dismal job numbers.
That's one new job right there. True. But also that's one layoff plus a new job. So I think it cancels itself out. Next month's jobs report, 1 million jobs. You love it. You love to see it. America's hot.
We then spend the last hour of the stream on two separate Fox and Friends interviews with TikTok influencers who give male fashion advice and female dating advice respectively. And then the stream ends. Day one over.
Okay,
what did we learn?
Democrats corrupt and ineffective, true. Israel's Nazis, true. Racism, green books, don't really know what he means by that. There's racism. Honestly, if you know nothing about politics and you watched that and you come away with these takeaways, that's a pretty productive day of consuming politics.
Claudette Colvin was born September 5th, 1939 in Montgomery, Alabama. While in high school, she joined the NAACP Youth Council, where she would meet another Montgomery native, Rosa Parks.
Wow.
All right, another day. Let's get...
Sit it alone.
Competitive multiplayer. Oh.
Okay, what's going on today?
I watched the first episode of King of the Hill. It was all right.
He's going to debate Charlie Kirk.
Dartmouth, where I'm going to be debating Charlie Kirk.
And apparently Epstein had a photo with Castro. He's really disappointed about that.
How the fuck does he have a photo with Fidel, bro? This hurts. This hurts so much more. This hurts so much more than Chomsky. Hated some of y'all's faves are going to be implicated. Like,
first news story. Sarah Huckabee Sanders visits the Western Wall.
Literally, this is the one thing about Judaism that I do not know. Like, I mean, I've learned deep lore on this broadcast about Sukkot, about the citrus, about the stick and the tent. It's just the holy wall. I don't know. Wait, what the fuck? You don't know either? How do you not know? You're Jewish. Why do Christians go there and like cry and stuff? I'm gonna be real. It's not much. It's the outside wall of the Second Temple. This is the Temple Mount, mega holy, great place to pray.
How has he been doing commentary on Israel-Palestine for so long and he doesn't know about the Western Wall? It's one of the main points of contention and negotiations for the two-state solution.
It's just the wall, man. Calm down. Like, politicians are doing the...
Dude, saying it's one of the main points of contention for the two-state solution with a straight face is hilarious. Like, there's a serious discussion about a two-state solution versus a one-state solution right now. While a famine was just declared in Gaza because Israel's trying to kill all of the Palestinians there, and like, you have this guy sitting there playing checkers at a park bench when the opponent that he's playing checkers against is just getting stabbed to death. And he's like, okay, but like, you haven't moved your king yet because we need to finish this game of checkers while the guy's just like getting stabbed to death right now. Like, dude, you are in a completely different conversation. Were you not actually listening? Maybe Hassan should have covered what Israel's doing more instead of just covering Nazis or Zionists and calling them Nazis.
Classic, like, we're going to Israel to show how fucking to show how much we love Israel routine. That's it.
Okay, an hour and 20 minutes in, actual news. Trump is on the roof.
Oh, he's getting up there.
Doesn't do any investigating, just thinks it's funny.
Do a flip!
Anything about the dementia-addled...
Okay, like, you find something funny that Trump did and you laugh about it because he's acting like an old man with dementia, just being all confused and waddling around in random places. I don't know, man. Like, I don't make fun of Ethan Klein for pulling up a video of the Costco guys and being like, oh wow, look at them, they're talking about a new deal at Costco, that's hilarious, these guys are so funny. You can find humor in things And it's not like a point to be criticized for. It's so weird that this guy doing this video is pretending like Hassan laughing at the ridiculous antics of an aging Donald Trump is something that detracts from him for being a serious news guy. He's like, where are we getting to the news? Wow, we were only watching CBS for 40 minutes out of the entire 8 hours.
President who's killing millions of people around the world by cutting USAID and facilitating the genocide in Gaza needs more scrutiny?
What? Oh, he didn't scrutinize Trump hard enough. Okay. Sorry, I'm just reading what this shit is. To engage in combat with other players, touch the effigy of America in a coliseum. Oh, this is a coliseum? United combat and combat ordeals can be undertaken in this venue. Ooh. In United Combat, 2 teams of fighters clash. Okay, I need to screenshot this because I'm trying to get my friend to start doing Elden Ring 2. Pull it up on, let me pull up Discord. Okay, what does this guy say? He's like, Hassan's not talking about Donald Trump enough. This is awesome. This is energized.
Okay,
me.
but Trump and Harris were the same.
To show how much we love Israel routine. That's it.
Okay, an hour and 20 minutes in, actual news. Trump is on the roof.
Oh, he's getting up there.
Doesn't do any investigating, just thinks it's funny.
Do a flip!
Anything about the dementia-addled president who's killing millions of people around the world by cutting USAID and facilitating the genocide in Gaza needs more scrutiny? No? Okay, but Trump and Harris were the same.
What is this? It follows 24...
But Trump and Harris were the same. Once again, Hassan never said that during this week. That's from the clips that this guy's been consuming on Reddit, on the H3 Snark Reddit.
Epstein comes up. That's a problem squarely on Trump, right? No, Republicans are subpoenaing Democrats, including Bill and Hillary Clinton. He spends the majority of time on them instead, thinking it's funny.
Bill Clinton can do the funniest thing. I'm just saying. Take it all down, baby. Come on. Come on. Mutually assured pedophilia destruction.
He's upset that Cory Booker doesn't want to endorse Zora.
The guy's mad that he's making fun of Bill Clinton, who went to the pedophile island. He went to an island owned by a billionaire pedophile. And this guy's mad that Hassan's making jokes about Bill Clinton being outed as a child enthusiast.
On Mamdani.
He had no issues pumping Mayor Adams. This is all about...
He did not endorse Eric Adams.
Pumping Mayor Adams. This is all about Israel, 100%.
And we're back to Israel because he's corrupt because of AIPAC.
And Israel is not even just about Israel. Israel is about democracy. AIPAC money is consequential. It is important, especially at a time like this. In late recording, Cory Booker says he and AIPAC president text message back and forth like teenagers. AIPAC is simply a representation, tip of the iceberg, in terms of how pervasive Israeli lobbying efforts are and how pervasive Israeli influence is in American politics.
This is Professor John Mearsheimer. He's a political science professor at the University of Chicago. In 2007, he wrote a book called The Israel Lobby and U.S. Foreign Policy, which was about the Israel lobby and U.S. foreign policy. The argument of the book is that Israel leads American foreign policy in the Middle East at America's expense. Not quite Mossad did 9/11, but it's still pretty inflammatory. Today, he's going to tell us about the Greater Israel Project. Greater Israel is the idea that Israel has a religious compulsion to conquer the land from the Nile River in Egypt to the Euphrates in Syria and Iraq, along with the entirety of Lebanon and a large chunk of Saudi Arabia. This is despite the fact that Israel hasn't done any conquering, even with its projection of military force. Israel has gone into Lebanon multiple times and left. It gave Egypt the Sinai for peace. Jordan...
It literally annexed parts of Lebanon. Like, it's annexing, it's taking over the West. What do you mean Israel hasn't done any conquering? Israel, Lebanon. Oh yeah, it also took areas of Syria. It occupied southern Lebanon. It's taken over parts of Syria. Oh yeah, it took over Haifa. That's what I'm thinking of. It like that is not supposed to be Israeli land, but it took it over. Oh yeah, and Golan Heights from Syria that it's occupied. It's in the process of completely annexing Gaza Strip and ethnically cleansing Palestinians out of there, and it's doing the same with the West Bank. I don't know, man. Saying that Israel's not actively pursuing a greater Israel when literally like the people of Israel are saying that it is kind of weird. Kind of weird to do that. Kind of weird. It's a kind of weird thing to say when Israel's in the process of doing it right now.
And ministers Al-Aqsa Mosque in
This guy's politics is he's an anti-Hassan troll. That's what his politics are.
Jerusalem. And despite bombing Syria, the IDF has actively removed Israelis who have tried to set up settlements across the border. This does not make West Bank settlements minor in comparison, nor is it excusable for the way that it has made reconciliation needlessly harder. The point is that it lacks historical evidence that Israel's plan has been to rip up peace agreements with its neighbors and start a war on 5 fronts, with manpower it doesn't have, to seize territory it cannot hold, with military aid it won't get. Unless he thinks that the US would be willing to help with that because of the Israel lobby. So we're going to listen to this guy talk about Greater Israel, okay? Where is he talking about this?
It has bombed Syria. It has bombed Lebanon. It's bombed Yemen. It's bombed Iran. Like it has bombed all of these countries with the support of the US. Like, what are you talking about? He's acting like Israel's not going to do it? Yeah. It's an issue. That's why Yoav Gallant wanted to stop the invasion of Gaza, he wanted to stop the occupation of Gaza and put it on hold to get more troops to invade Lebanon with. Like, he said as much. He wanted more troops to invade Syria and Lebanon with. That's why he wanted to pause the occupation of Gaza. And that's why he was saying that there's no more valid military targets in Gaza to go after. But Netanyahu wanted to annex Gaza first, and so he fired Yoav Gallant. And also, Yoav Gallant was a political rival of Netanyahu.
We spend 2 hours listening to Tucker Carlson's podcast uncritically. Hassan will tell you that Tucker is a fascist.
Tucker Carlson is not an ally, and I will explain to you why over and over again.
He'll just also tell you he agrees with everything they're talking about.
Everything from here on out, he's cooking with gas. He's 100% correct.
And not once will he ever consider putting those two thoughts together. Remember that one time Tucker Carlson had on?
Adolf Hitler is firing off radio broadcasts, giving speeches, trying to get the message to these people that Germany does not want to fight you. Churchill wanted a war. I don't begrudge him that.
This is serial doxer, harasser, and all-around awful human being, Bad Empanada.
Stupid name, stupid humans.
The noted terrorist Menachem Begin, whose name I surely mispronounced, but I mean, modern Hebrew is a constructed language anyway. They pronounce everything wrong.
Hassan won't correct that little obvious anti-Semitic tidbit, but his chat certainly seems to like it. But he will correct one thing.
Reagan was an extreme.
It has a policy of wanting to revitalize the language of Hebrew by taking words and then like creating Hebrew words out of it. Like I literally talked to a Israeli that said as much. I don't. Like you can't just take things said about Israel that make them look bad and say it's anti-Semitic. Okay, let's continue.
Trump is president. He was just better on camera than Trump is because he was an actor and Trump isn't. And
Wrong! Donald Trump is a TV guy as well, and that's the reason why he's very telegenic and very charismatic. I disagree with Bad Empanada.
Nobody's seen anything like it, even though they've done it twice before. And in a certain way, it almost looks like they've abandoned the state. It looks very bad. Yeah, go ahead.
Zoomer NPR, everyone. Oh my God, we're finally done with Tucker. I have no more energy. Now we're at RFK banning mRNA vaccines, which is really, really bad.
Oh my God. Am I crazy? Isn't mRNA research like literally working to cure cancer? A Jeffrey Epstein associate is molesting the field of...
Go from RFK ending what might be one of the biggest public health advancements since the inception of modern vaccines, back to being happy because Trump is going after Adam Schiff.
Oh my God.
part of that is...
Oh my God. Senator Adam Schiff under federal criminal investigation for alleged mortgage fraud violations. Oh my God, I hope they arrest him. Oh my God, I hope he goes to prison. Yeah, this is political. Sure, I don't care. Lock him up. Lock him up. I know Trump is doing this out of pure malice. This motherfucker got like $6 million from AIPAC. Shifty Schiff.
He reads the full Trump social media post about Schiff. Then he reads another full Trump tweet, this time about the Doge kid named Big Balls getting mugged, and completely glosses over the part where Trump talks about federalizing DC because of a fact he finds out about the attackers.
One of them is a girl?
Claudette Colvin used the buses in Montgomery to get to school and back home. The buses back then were segregated, meaning that if a white passenger boarded, they were given priority for the front of the bus, and black passengers had to go to the back. On March 2nd, 1955, Claudette was riding home when a white passenger boarded and she was told to move. She refused, and so the bus driver called the police and she was arrested. 9 months later, Rosa Parks would be arrested for the same offense. Alright, what fresh hell awaits me today? So he begins with streamer and YouTube drama. I don't care. You don't care.
Yeah.
Let's not.
Let's call it here. This is a painful video to get through. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna call it. Thank you for watching the stream. If you care to, consider liking, consider leaving a comment, and yeah, this was a stupid video. I thought it would actually be some kind of like concise thing, but what he actually did is just recap what Hassan did every day. I don't think there's going to be a conclusion that's going to be coherent at all. I think we can kind of ignore this. Anyway, guys, thanks for, at least he got a boost from Ethan Klein shouting him out. So anyway, guys, thanks for checking me out. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.